Today we journey across the South, stepping inside 4 homes rooted in classic design, but with a deeply personal lens. We begin in Alabama, where interior designer Tori Johnston's light-filled home is layered with heirlooms and traditional style. In Georgia, designer Clay Snider's bungalow has been shaped and refined over 2 decades, with an eye for timeless detail. In South Carolina, TV personality Venita Aspen brings a more playful perspective with her bold style, filling each room with color and pattern. And finally, in North Carolina, artist Caroline Boykin reimagines a 1960s home, transforming it into a soft, feminine retreat grounded in classic design. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. And be sure to check out our new show with interior designer Martin Lawrence Bullard, streaming exclusively on Homeworthy Plus.
You don't really know a city until you step inside the homes of the people who live there. Architecture as telling as accents, decor as delectable as local dishes, personalities who define the places they call home.
Listen, I like organized chaos.
I'm Martin Lawrence Bullard, and in Live, Love and Decorate, I'm taking you beyond the public squares and into the private spaces at the heart of my favorite cities.
I thought I'd come home.
We'll travel from Los Angeles to London, Paris to Istanbul, and even beyond, knocking on the doors of my dearest friends, bursting with style and stories that go way beyond design.
For you, I will do anything, my darling.
Can't wait to see, I'm so excited. Each home reveals more than just a city, it reveals the spirit. This show isn't about facades, it's about what's inside. It's a celebration of the passion and the personality that transforms a city's houses into true homes. Welcome to Live, Love and Decorate.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Tori. Welcome to my home in Montgomery. Come on in. Hi, my name's Tori Johnston. I'm a residential designer in Montgomery, Alabama. Welcome to my home that I share with my husband and our 2 sons. So our home was built in 1999, and it's interesting because it's in a very established section of Montgomery where all the homes are at least 50, 60, 70 years old, lots of established trees. And when we moved to Montgomery, we lived a few streets over in a home that was just very picturesque. It had great curb appeal, and it was older and very traditional layout. But as we lived there about 7 or 8 years, we started to outgrow it, but we knew we wanted to stay in the neighborhood. This home had been for sale for 6 months or so, and my husband said, well, it has a garage, it has a swimming pool, kind of the things that we were wanting with our boys getting older, so we looked at it. But it was a newer home in the neighborhood, which is a little odd for our neighborhood, but it needed a lot of updating. And we looked at it and I thought, okay, are we up for this? And we just decided to go for it. So it was a fixer-upper, but we were ready for it. And that's really kind of where my desire to be a designer came into play. Once I redid my home, I just realized I loved it. I had just a great interest. It gave me a lot of joy. And so that's where we landed. Welcome to the entryway of my home. As you can see, it is a 2-story kind of grand moment when you walk in, and we love it because it's just a great space for when we have company and parties. I love to have people in here. I'll bring cocktails out here and let people gather in this space, full of light in the day, which is wonderful. Right here in the middle, I found this table at a local antique store, and it was such an afterthought. I think we lived here about 3 years where I did not have a table, and I was looking for just the right one, and I found it. I love to collect design books and coffee table books, and I just like to place them here. You'll see throughout my house, I have a lot of blue and white. I've been collecting it pretty much since right after college. And this changes. Like right now I had dried some limelight hydrangeas from my yard at the lake and brought them here, but throughout the year I'll change it, and sometimes I'll do fresh flowers, but just these were still looking pretty good, so they're here. So I love to use little stools to elevate, like in this case a vase, but if I'm entertaining I'll put the water dispenser on it just to create different heights. I love these little sheep. I don't really know much about them except that they're right here when you come in, and I think they're really cute. My piano is over here, and I play the piano, and I've played since I was in the 5th grade. I was already playing the violin when I started taking piano lessons, and I begged to take piano lessons, and my parents, they didn't think it was the best idea because I was already playing the violin, but I wanted to take, and I think that was really why I still play today, is because I always just love it. I practiced. Nobody had to tell me to practice. I loved it. And I play at church. I play for my family. I play just lots of little children's plays around town. And I love it in here. This piano has moved with me, let me think, maybe 7 or 8 houses. And it moves really easily. If you've never witnessed anybody moving a piano, I don't recommend it. Just let the professionals handle it, but it's moved with me, and it's found the perfect spot here. It's been in a lot of living rooms, but in this home we have the perfect spot for when you walk in. And I think it's beautiful just to display candles and flowers, and I always keep a lamp there on the sides. Going up the stairs, right now I have just some oil paintings that I have collected. I have some oil paintings up there of my boys when they were children. These paintings have been here for maybe a year, but I may change it out from time to time. The 2 on the side and the one in the middle I've picked up at antique stores, and then the one below was a gift from my parents, art collectors, and they just gave me that. I don't know much about the artist, but I do think it's beautiful with the sun, the sky, and I love cows. You'll notice a lot of my art has landscapes and cows. That's really my favorite art, and I do branch out with other art, but you will see a lot of landscapes with cows. When we moved in, I needed a small piece, but I needed it to be a little bit taller and narrow. And when I walked into Scott Antique Market, it was the very first piece I saw on a particular visit, and I think it's great, and it fits really well in this space. This little lamp I purchased right after college. I think I bought it at a little home decor store in Birmingham. And a lot of things that I purchased right after college, when you're kind of young and you're figuring out like what your style is, we've usually probably passed those on to someone, but he stayed with me. I just think he's really sweet. These 2 watercolors came from an estate sale here in Montgomery. It was a lady, she had a cottage in Cloverdale, which is a historical area of town, and everything in her home was absolutely beautiful. And there was nothing really in there that I had to have, but when I left, I said, I've got to buy something from this estate sale because everything was so collected, and she had the most impeccable taste. So I purchased these and just placed them right there over this oak barley twist little desk. So when you come in, you can see the staircase. It's original to the house, which again, you know, the home was built in the 90s. Because this space is so open and there's hardwood floors and tall ceilings, I wanted to soften the space with a stair runner. And I love using wool, tight woven on stairs. This one is from Stanton, and it can just handle the traffic of children and dogs and shoes, and it's held up very well and it cleans very well. So it has a small scale print. Because it is an open space, it blends well with all of the other patterns that are going on in the house. So now we're going to move on to the dining room. One of the aspects of the home is this portion is a little more open than I would probably have ever had before. I tend to like different rooms to have different definition, but this room is open. There's support beams, so they do need to be here. And I thought about walling this in, but after we lived here a while, I told you I like to live in a space and kind of see what works. And I actually do love it being open because this is such a great space for entertaining and having guests like arrive and gather. But in here, one of the first things you notice is my wallpaper. So I love this bird and thistle wallpaper. It's from Brunswick & Fee, and I knew I wanted to use it. I actually wanted to use it at my old home, but I had an inkling that we may move, so I held off, and I did this right away. But as with homes that were built during the 90s, there was a lot of drywall, a lot of sheetrock, a lot of just plain blank walls. And I knew I wanted to change that. So one of the first things we did is my husband and I, we like to woodwork. And like I said, my dad, is a master woodworker. So his woodworking was very, very elaborate, very fancy, highly, highly skilled. But Brian and I, added the chair rail, and we added the moldings. We moved the outlets to the baseboards so it would not interrupt the flow of the moldings. And one thing I like to do when I add chair rail and moldings is I like to paint the woodwork, the drywall that's behind it, and then of course the picture moldings, all the same paint. I like to use an oil-based paint. My favorite paint is Benjamin Moore Satin and Pervo. It just gives the most luxurious satin sheen, and it does not chip. 2 boys, 2 dogs, lots of activity at any given moment in this home. There's boys everywhere. This paint is just the best. So I think it gives a great finish. Love the bird and thistle wallpaper, how it just has, a lot of colors in it. At first you think it's just ivory and brown. But if you look closely at it, it has different colors. There's blue, there's little drops of pink, which I love pink. You'll see pink kind of sprinkled around my home. And I love that all of the birds are different. They have different little faces, and like this guy, he's got like some little dots on his chest, and I love that. I had these art prints. This was really like my first kind of grown-up purchase way back in the early 2000s, and kind of my first introduction to how expensive framing can be. So those have stayed with me. I've had these about 25 years, and I just thought they looked great with the bird and thistle wallpaper. I have a round table, which I love to have, because you can easily talk to your guests. Everybody can have a part of the conversation. You're not stuck talking at one end of one group or this group. And I have 6 chairs. This table can comfortably seat 10, but right now I just have it for 6. And underneath I have a wrought iron base and a glass top, which I've had since I think 2000. I purchased it right after college. Had it in a breakfast room, had it in a dining room, and then when we moved here, I just had this G.P.&J. Baker table skirt made just to soften the space, because like I said, this part of the home is real open, so anytime I can bring in fabrics and rugs and upholster on the chairs just to soften the space is really what I like to do. I purchased these chairs. I call them sheepbone chairs because I love the detail work on the bottom. And they were originally a buffalo check. And I purchased them at a local antique store, Cottage Collection, and they were beautiful in my other home. But when I moved here, and I just wanted to bring out the blue that's in the wallpaper, so I had my upholsterer put this light blue velvet on there, and I think that it works really well. I like to collect china. I have probably 12 sets of dishes, maybe more. I've kind of lost count. And today I just wanted to set the table with this china. It was an estate sale last October in one town over, and I saw this china and I just thought it was so beautiful. It was in the photographs, and I went specifically to purchase this, and I was so glad when I got there and it was available. I just love the little scallops. It has little hints of lavender and green and blue, and I just think they are just so beautiful. This artwork, oil painting, the artist is George Nelson, and I just love the foxgloves, and he's known as one of the top 10 portrait artists in America. This little side drop leaf table. It was my grandmother's. She lovingly called this style early marriage because she said that in the 40s, that's just what you did. You got married and everybody got a drop leaf table, a china cabinet, and the little chairs. So she called it early marriage. And my dad refinished it, added the claw feet and refinished it because my grandmother and grandfather lived on this table. I mean, I think at one point it had a huge burn on it from a waffle iron, but my dad brought it back to life. And it lives here and it's beautiful. Again, another collection of plates. This collection has different pheasants and quail, and I just, again, love dishes, so you'll see them sprinkled about the house. The last thing in this room that I'd like to show you guys is this sideboard. I purchased it at Scott's Antique Market in Atlanta, and it's just the perfect size. I like to put some ginger jars underneath it, and I use, again, I have more china stored. This is Lenox Autumn that I keep on this side. And then I keep another pattern I collect, this pattern called Ansley. I just keep china everywhere, and I like to pull it out. I purchased these lamps at Round Top, at Blue Hills at Round Top. I just thought the scale, they're so tall, they're 40 inches tall, and with 10-foot ceilings, scale is so important. And the lamps I had before were fine. They were beautiful and they worked, but the scale of these is just very complimentary to the tall ceilings. And then of course, you can't go wrong with a Louis Philippe mirror. I think they are just perfect in every room. This one has a little pie crust detail, and I love the patina on the mirror. So one of my favorite memories of this dining room is during COVID, because we moved here in 2020, and during COVID we really were not doing a lot of entertaining. We were not doing a lot of dinner parties, which I love to host dinner parties, especially, or like I said, around a round table. So what we did is in the month of December, my family and I, just the four of us, we ate dinner in here every night during Christmas, and I would set the table with formal china, and we would have like a fancy dinner. And it would not be fancy food, but we would have a fancy dinner every night. Since we were not able to go to parties as much and entertain, we kind of had our own little entertaining. We would light candles, and my boys were a lot younger then, and they really loved that. So that's a very special memory of this dining room. Is right after we moved in, we would always have our little fancy dinners in here. So I think I've always been a creative at heart. I've played the violin and the piano since a very young child, and I've always loved art and just working with my hands. But after college, I had a sales career for 13 years, and I loved that. It was the perfect job for me as a single girl, and I just loved being around people and meeting new people and traveling. And then when we moved to Montgomery, I stayed home with my boys for about 10 years. And when I was staying home, I owned and operated a cookie decorating business where I decorated the elaborate sugar cookies, and I taught violin lessons. But after we moved into this home in 2020 is when I really just learned how much I love design. I always had that desire. I was decorating my dorm room, and in Birmingham, before I was married to my husband, I owned 3 different homes, and it was kind of a hobby. I would buy a home, fix it up, sell it, buy another home, fix it up and sell it. And so I always knew I enjoyed it, but after we moved here, and I just knew it was just, friends were asking me, will you help me with my bedroom? Will you help me with my living room? And so that was kind of just a natural course that it took. From the dining room, we'll walk across the foyer and into the living room. And one thing I'll point out right here is the house, like I said, was built in the 90s, and it had a lot of columns. There were columns maybe where they did not need to be columns. There was some kind of strange arches going on that were maybe dated the home a little bit. So we just opened and kind of simplified the case opening so that it would provide just a beautiful view into this living room. So we're now in my living room, and as you can see, it has this floor to ceiling window that lets a lot of natural light come in. And when we moved in, It had just plain sheetrock or drywall, just lots of big walls. And a big wall like this can be very intimidating because you feel like you need to fill it up with art and furniture, and it's just a lot of space. So my husband and I, we added the chair rail and the wall moldings just to give it some interest and just give it a little bit more of an elevated look, give it that character that this house needed. It just needed a little bit more character to feel like one of the more older homes that's in our neighborhood. Originally, I painted the room like a darker blue. So this room was a very moody, darker blue. It had a lot of darker furniture and it was just a really cool vibe. But about a year ago, I just said, you know what, I think I'm ready for some light and pink and green and blue. So we changed it up and I just really moved things around that I had. So I started with this sofa. I actually found it at a secondhand store, and I lifted the cushion. That's one of my tricks. If you're ever at a store, lift the cushion and see who the manufacturer is. This one was Lee Industries, so I knew it was a good quality sofa. So I had it recovered in this beautiful green velvet, and I added some trim at the bottom and just kind of went from there. I had the chairs from previous homes, the blue chairs. They just that set the tone for, I knew I had the blue chairs and I had the green, and then I knew I wanted to bring in some pink. So I chose this T-bow fabric that has all of my favorite colors. It has different shades of green, different shades of blue. It has ivory, and I lined them in a blackout lining so that you could actually see the pattern. Sometimes when you don't line curtains with blackout, when the sun comes through, it can kind of fade the pattern, but I really wanted to showcase the pattern. The art on the wall is an artist named Catherine Worth, and she, this is probably a recent purchase. I knew I wanted a larger piece here, and after the floods in Texas at Camp Mystic, Catherine just was really looking for a way to give back and to donate to the families of the victims. And so this was one of her originals that had been really popular. I think it was one of her favorites, and she decided to do prints. So it's actually a print, but she had a time where she was taking orders, and she donated all of the proceeds to the families of Camp Mystic. So when I saw her post about that, I knew I wanted to participate, and I just think it looks really beautiful on this wall. The two wing chairs, they are hickory chair. They are sisters, not twins. If you look closely, they are not exactly the same. Both were found at antique stores at different times, but I just thought that they complemented each other, and I had them recovered in this small scale green pattern, and they flank a bow front chest. I've never met a bow front English chest that I didn't like. I think they could find a spot in every room. I love to collect majolica, and so you'll see majolica sprinkled all throughout the home. I love to hang plates on the wall. I love just that little bit of dimension that it gives. Anything with green, shades of pink are going to always be something that I'll pick up, whether I see it at an estate sale or an antique store. And I like to display a lot of it in these shelves. These shelves, they get restyled a lot. I will change it up and just play around, move things around. But right now, I have a lot of my majolica and my asparagus ware. And I have some family photos. I love these photos. This is my mom's parents and my dad's parents, both when they were early marriage. And then some of my grandmother when she was a little girl and her senior portrait. And they just, they live here with all of my collections. Okay, so my granny had a wicker desk that was from, I think it was her grandmother's. So it was very old, and it has lived at my house. It's now at my mom's house. We kind of move it around because we all kind of fight over it. So a neighbor was selling this. She had used this as a changing table for her grandchildren. And when she was no longer needing it, I purchased it from her and I painted it. And it just reminds me of my grandmother's. And it's lived in different rooms. It's been in the sunroom, it's been in here, and it just is kind of a wink to her and her wicker desk that we all love. So leaving the living room, we'll kind of walk through the foyer briefly to get to the family room. So this is our family room, our den. This is where our family spends probably 90% of our time. We hang out in here, we watch television, we watch football. It's pretty open to the kitchen. It has a nice flow. And it also has a lot of natural light that's from the sunroom. So one thing about this space is when we first moved in, there were transom glass windows, which I know when it was built, I know they wanted to be able to see the sunroom, but I love building walls and making spaces more defined. So we closed the transoms in so I could allow to be able to put more art and more brown furniture. Like I said earlier, I will always love brown furniture. I put it in every room, and this one, again, I probably picked up at an antique store, and I like to store different silverware and entertaining pieces. The secretary, again, another piece that I love. Usually all of my clients will end up with a secretary if it's up to me, because I love the height, I love the scale, and I just also love to collect different items, and I think it's a beautiful spot to display all of your collections. I have my Majolica, I have pictures of my boys, I have antique books in here, little just happies. My mother actually has a collection of paperweights, and so I have one here. And I think it fits very well in this space. I love the fretwork and the detail work across the top with the dental molding and the fretwork. It's just one of my favorite pieces in the home. I usually tend to go with newer upholstery that's comfortable in a space like this, and I will add like this Samuel & Sons trim. I will usually always try to add tape or trim to the bottom of furniture, just to, especially if you're going with a solid, just to give it a little bit more interest. And a fun fact about one of the patterns in here, I think I told you guys earlier, I love to mix patterns. Usually in a room, I will start with a bold floral or a bold pattern, and then I'll add in stripes, checks, small prints, geometrics. But I went to an estate sale, the same estate sale where I purchased the china in the dining room. And in the room where the jewelry was for sale, so really if you were not looking for jewelry, you may not have gone in there. There were these curtains, paneled curtains that I don't think anybody even noticed, and I didn't even notice them. And I looked on the curtains and I said, my goodness, that is the most beautiful fabric. I'm sure it's a vintage fabric, but it had all of my favorite details. It has floral, it has a vertical pattern, and then it has the little dots that we'll see in a lot of fabrics. Incorporate these little dots. So it had floral, vertical, and dots, and I just wanted to add them to these slipper chairs with the little ruffled bottom, and I thought it blended well with the existing patterns that I had going. My husband loves to hunt, so he has gone out west and he killed this elk in New Mexico, and he lets me do pretty much what I want to do in the home. He loves my style, and he pretty much says yes to everything. So the one request he had was to be able to place his elk on the wall, and I said yes. And we have one at the lake too. He has it over the in the vaulted ceiling at the lake. This chest, I have to mention this. This was the first piece of furniture I purchased. I purchased it in 1999. It's a reproduction, but it was my first actual furniture purchase as a young girl, and it's special to me because it has truly lived in every home where I've lived, and it's been just with me the longest, aside from furniture that my grandmother and parents had given me. And what I keep in it, I keep photographs. I keep family photographs and old photographs that I like to look through. I'll pull out, like for instance, here's one from my family at the beach. So I just love to go through there and look at photographs of my family. Because the room is square, I wanted to do a square coffee table, and I love, like I said, I love books. I love to display items. I'm not a minimalist. I'll probably say the opposite of minimalist. So the square coffee table, it's new. I purchased it locally at a store here in Montgomery, and I love that it has just this little bit of detail on the way the wood is cut. The gold band is great, and I just like to display all of the little things that make me happy. And I always recommend in a family room having a box on the coffee table where you can hide the remote. For years it had little Lego pieces and all that. My design style is always going to be rooted in traditional design. It's just where I was raised on it. My parents love colonial Williamsburg historic homes. I joke that all of our vacations were centered around educational vacations, a lot of architecture. So I think that's just always going to be the root of where I start is tradition, but I'd love to bring in fresh and fun elements. Antiques are always going to be in rooms. I will always have brown furniture, but I love just mixing patterns and colors. To me, you cannot have enough pattern on pattern, and lots of color, not necessarily on the walls. If I love color on the walls, but always bringing it in ways that speak to you. And when I have a client that tells me she loves pattern, and that just makes me very happy. So. All right, so when you're in our den, you have a direct view of the breakfast room and kitchen. And when we first moved in, this entire space was completely open, and it had tile floor. So there was a break, there was tile floor and then hardwood. And I wanted to create a little bit more definition, so we added the cased moldings and of course added the hardwood. Still give you that flow that everybody likes where you're in the kitchen and then you can have your family in the den, but it gave it a little bit of definition. And so you had a direct view, and we just kind of kept the same footprint of the house. The sink and the stove were always in the same place, and so we kept that. And I always tell my clients that if you are remodeling a bathroom or a kitchen and you can keep the footprint, if you can keep the plumbing and the electrical and the stove where they were set, that is going to be so much more friendly on the budget, and you can actually then take that budget and use it towards, an upgrade like on countertop. Like for instance, we did this marble here that we carried it through to the back of the stove. So one thing I did is I took down, there was upper cabinets here when we first moved in, and the cabinets were short. They did not go all the way to the ceiling, and we have 10-foot ceilings. So I just felt like the cabinets that were here they just did not draw your eye up. So I decided to take the cabinets down, and I did the marble up the back so I could display more of my collections of just little small decorative pieces that make me happy, and more art. I told you I love anything like landscapes. As you can see, this watercolor has a beautiful landscape, some water, and I love that. So when I design for myself, I joke that I'm my favorite client because I love everything. I love textiles, wallpaper. I love antiques, recovering furniture, finding furniture at thrift stores and recovering it. Just to me, if you love it, you're gonna find a spot for it. That's what I usually do when I'm out shopping. If I'm at an antique store, an estate sale, or even at a furniture store that has new items, if you love an item, it's gonna work in your space. And that's just kind of works for me. Moving on from the kitchen and the den, it flows into the sunroom, which is Probably my favorite room in the house because it is just light and bright and it just makes me happy. It is directly overlooks our backyard. When my boys were younger, I would sit in this corner and I had a direct view of the swimming pool and I could watch them swim and also relax. So this room, we kind of started with the sectional. So it was during COVID when we moved in in 2020, and I love a sectional or a L-shaped sofa, however you want to say it. But COVID times, we all know furniture was hard to come by. So this was in stock at a local store. So this was what we purchased. And so I just used it as the base. And I love blue and green. Again, I always start with a bold floral. I love this hollyhock from Lee Joffa, and I added just complimentary pillows. I had this table made. This is just a very hard-working performance blue, kind of chenille, so you can put your feet on it. It also serves as, it can be a table, but it's very, very durable. It's been with me a long time. And then on the curtains, I just chose this linen that is, I did not line it. I like to have just, sometimes you don't line curtains. You just have it where light can filter through. And with it being a sunroom, I did not want to line them. I just wanted it to be light filtering. And I love to add tapes and trim to as much as I can. So the art in here, in fact, several pieces in here are from a local artist. Her name's Lauren Foshi. I actually taught her daughter violin lessons for years. So Lauren and I got to be really good friends when I was teaching her daughter. And she does the most beautiful watercolors of feathers and landscapes. She does some abstract. She created this pair of feathers for this room for me. I needed two pretty heavy pieces to flank the walls. And so she created those for me. And I think they are just really special. And they mean a lot to me because she's my friend and I have a history with her. She also did these abstracts for me as well. And I needed something tall here. So I used two more of her pieces. The wall covering is from Colfax and Fowler. They are one of my favorite sources for fabric and wallpaper. I think it's because it has an English feel. At the heart of my design is tradition, but always going to be English kind of touches with the attention to detail, with pattern mixing and trims and pleated lampshades. You'll notice in most of my rooms, I have pleated lampshades. I love to purchase lamps. Like, for instance, these blue lamps have this sweet little floral detail, but then I'll add another fabric pattern on the lampshades. And I'm fortunate enough to have several ladies who can make lampshades for me. But it's just another layer that I think adds such an interest to each room. So I think like everybody else in America that's around my age, I've picked up Mahjong. And that means for me, another excuse to have a new piece of furniture with fabric and pattern mixing. And so I had a local table maker make me this table, and I chose this Tebow indoor performance vinyl. If you don't know about their indoor performance vinyls, they're pretty new, but they are amazing. They're beautiful. They have there's like all different patterns. It's stripes, and this one's like a little herringbone. But you can wipe them down, spill red wine on them. They're beautiful. So I did the table in that, had the glass top, and then I added, this is a Sister Parish. This is a reversible performance fabric as well. And my workroom did one pattern on the bottom and another one on the top. So we could switch them out. But again, you spill food on them, red wine, white wine, it'll come out. And these were a little estate sale treasures, the chairs. I actually bought them thinking that I was going to use them in a client's house. But then we changed directions with her game table. And so I thought they would be great in here. And the funny thing about them is they're green right now because I painted them green, but in 6 months they may be blue. I'm not afraid to just take something out in the yard and get my sprayer out and change it. If I want them blue, they may be blue. And I have my mahjong set. I did not put the mat on. We have a little club, we call it, or we call Tile Tuesdays. We play mahjong every Tuesday. They change around. We change the sets around. I love my set because it's pale and pastel, has pink, blues, and greens, which are my favorite. So we've had many a good mahjong game here. Last thing I'll talk about is I love a bar cart. This is kind of a new obsession I have, are bar carts. And so if I see a bar cart, I will usually purchase it, and I'll usually try to talk my clients into using them. But I found this bar cart. One of the things I like to display are different plates. These hand-painted plates. My granny had a lot of these hand-painted plates, and we don't really know where they are. I think a couple of them broke, but when I found these at an estate sale, I actually have several. They made me so happy, because I just think memories of your grandmother, like going over as a little girl and seeing things out that you knew you couldn't touch, but you knew were special to her. She never would say, like, don't touch that, you'll break it. But I knew that she loved them. So when I found that, it made me so happy, because it made me think of her. So I display those sprinkled around the house. So when I was about 8 years old, my dad got me a dollhouse for Christmas, and he had put wallpaper in it, and we had furniture and all the things that dollhouses have. When we moved to our house when I was in the 5th grade, I think it landed in my room for a while, and then it slowly made its way to the attic. And I just always knew that when I had a little girl, I would get it out and I would remodel it and have it for her. Well, I had 2 boys, and that was fine. I love my boys, and I love being a boy mom. But I guess about 3 or 4 years ago, I said, Dad, I think I want to get my dollhouse down and bring it home and just paint it and just kind of update it, because I was already interested in design. And so I brought it home, and my husband jokes that I just went right to the edge of the cliff and jumped off. I did not just paint it. I completely demoed it, stripped it down, remodeled it. Then I started building furniture. I started building kitchen cabinets and lamps and pillows and making pillows. And so I just started really just kind of went wild with it. And I would put little snippets on my cookie Instagram page, and my followers loved it, and it started just getting a lot of traction. And I had a wonderful store here locally that would give me fabric swatches and samples and little wallpaper memos, and they were so kind, and they would share it, and then it just kind of went from there. And so after that, I started having people ask me to redo their childhood dollhouse or do one for their daughter for Christmas. And I think I redid about 8 dollhouses all in all. They're definitely a labor of love. Many, many late nights after my family would go to sleep, I would go upstairs and work on them. But they just brought me so much joy. They still do. And we will I'll be glad to show you guys later. So right at the top of my stairs, I keep these 3 oil paintings that my dad painted. Our first home in Montgomery, where I think you've seen in the other portrait, and then my parents' home, my childhood home, and then a home in Birmingham where we lived when we got married. Leading into my studio, this is my office where I meet with clients, and I usually do all of my design in here. I didn't have a daughter, so I thought that I would kind of lean into the pink, again, my favorite. And I used this Scalamandre block print with pink, blue, and green. And it just is flanking. And then I did a stripe on the ceiling, because I do love to kind of add interest on the ceiling. And I think a fun fact about the home, when it was built, the family that built it had 2 sons and a daughter. So the boys' rooms were, the Jack and Jill, where my boys sleep, and their daughter, this was her room. And so she has this bigger room over here where she actually did keep her dollhouse. Her mom told me that she kept like her Barbies and her dollhouse in here. And it's funny, that's where I keep my dollhouse. So this is a little room just kind of tucked off of my office. And this is where I worked on all the dollhouses that I have built and made. I kept a desk here, and I had some other shelves here where I stored all my supplies, but I've now transitioned it to a spot where I keep my dollhouse. So this is the dollhouse that I rebuilt and remodeled, and it's just full of all the things, pretty much anything I would do in a real house, I did in the dollhouse. And I do this in my home. I mix patterns, I layer. The kitchen is one of my favorite. I added these beams. I made all of the cabinets, and just trial and error, self-taught. I mean, my dad likes to woodwork, so I would watch him, but I just played around. Of course, I didn't make like the upholstered furniture, but I did make a lot of the furniture, the bedding, all the pillows. All right, so this project started about 3 or 4 years ago, and I was just going to paint it and maybe refresh it, but then it just kind of escalated, and I pretty much ripped everything out of it and started over. And I used lots of wallpaper samples, actually. I think there's just a lot of samples. I would just choose fabrics or wallpapers that I really liked, and then I would think, okay, if this was my house, or I could redo my house, or I could redo my kitchen, what would I do? And so that was really what I started with, is what would I use in my real house, because I wanted it to look like a real house. I know a lot of the furniture I had as a little girl was like the Victorian type furniture that was popular in the 80s. But I wanted to use modern furniture, and of course bring in all of the things I love, like the chest, the bamboo bed, the box pleats on the skirt. I made all the little pillows and all the bedding, and I just, again, mixed patterns. Like here I have this little small print check, a vertical floral, draperies that have trim on them, and you've got to have a little dog. The house has a little dog. I couldn't find a golden retriever or a pug, so that would have to do. And then naturally, because this house has a little girl living in it and a little boy living in it, they needed a mudroom. So I made the little desk, and I'll just take it out. You can see, I just built it. So it's just got like, it's just made of balsa wood. It comes out, and you can put it in there. We've got some antlers on the wall. We've got baseballs, all the art. And from the art, okay, so the Metropolitan Museum of Art, much like we see like on our frame TV, has a lot of art that is for public download. That's why we're able to use a lot on our frame TV, but also all of the art in the dollhouse is, you can find it in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So I would print these off and scale them down, and that is the art that you see in the dollhouse. A lot of still lifes, a lot of landscapes, of course landscapes with cows, because they're my favorite. The art in the dining room are feathers that are scaled down from an artist in Birmingham. Her name is Lacey, and her art is called By Lacey, and that is in the dining room. And I just think, who would really have a lavender dining room? But in the dollhouse, you can have a lavender dining room. You can't ignore the laundry room where all the work is done, so laundry room gets bright. And then the Americana bedroom. I recently designed an Americana bedroom for a client. Her son was born on the 4th of July. And so we did that, and I said, well, I've already have experience doing Americana bedroom. I did one in the dollhouse. So I love that. And I love that over here in the Americana bedroom, we have the Declaration of Independence on the wall. And we've got some fish, toys. And then the front is so beautiful. And what I did on the front is it was in a lot of, it needed some repairs. So I created this Chippendale railing as like a nod to my childhood. My mom and dad have a lot of Chippendale railing, and of course, visiting Monticello as a child a lot, you see a lot there, Thomas Jefferson influence. So Chippendale railing, columns, I rebuilt all the shingles, redid the roof, The color is Bally White, my favorite color, and then Iron Gate from Benjamin Moore is on the cabinets and on the porch. All right, so something funny about the dollhouse that I had to have is when I was a little girl, my favorite show was Bewitched, my absolute favorite show. And I love the episode where Samantha goes to the house and there's the bed warmer that follows her around, and she's, of course, doesn't want the bed warmer to follow her around, and it ends up being somebody that's been turned into a bed warmer. But I have to have the bed warmer because my grandmother, because I loved that episode, my mama used to always take me to antique stores and I'd say, I want to get a bed warmer. And she thought I was being silly, but it's in there because it reminds me of being a little girl, always wishing I had a bed warmer. So when the boys were little, as we all know, children have birthday parties, and I would go to birthday parties and I would see these sugar cookies and I'd say, oh, these are so beautiful and they're all so good. And I would make them, and it would just make me mad that my cookies did not look that way. So I just started watching YouTube videos and pretty much self-taught myself how to do sugar cookies, and they got better each time I made them. And then, I mean, I really think they turned into just little works of art. Every sugar cookie, I would spend hours on cookies, but they were beautiful and fun, and they were a great outlet for me to be creative while my boys were in the kitchen with me coloring, or they would be in the kitchen watching television or cartoon, and I could have a little creative outlet and a little business, but I could still be home with my boys. So welcome to my bedroom, the primary suite in our home. And when we first moved in, like I said, there was a few things that were different. This door that leads to my closet was a wall, and it was closed off. It is a closet now. It used to be a study. So the window back here created a little bit of a little hiccup as to where to put the bed. So I just created this linen fabric kind of backdrop so I could put the bed here in what I felt like was the right spot. When you walked in, it was here. I chose this upholstered frame bed, and I covered it in this vertically print Schumacher, which I've always loved and wanted to use it. And then, like I've said before, I like to mix like a bolder pattern, usually a floral, and then I'll do like smaller patterns. So this pattern from Stout, it's one of my favorites. It has like the darker blue, the lighter blue, the green, smaller scale on the lampshades and on the front pillows. I just like to mix. And then if you look back on the wall covering, it's a ivory, like a neutral. So it kind of reads like a neutral, like you'll see it and you'll think it's paint, but if you look closer, it is this, it's also from Schumacher, and it's a wall covering with flowers, and I just love it so much because it still gives that neutral feel, but it just that one more layer. And then, of course, the wool trellis rug brings in the green. I like to mix blues and greens. And chandelier. As much as I would love a ceiling fan, my friends give me a hard time because they love ceiling fans. I love a chandelier, and I'll just bring in a portable fan. Brown furniture, as I've said before, you'll always see this. I picked this up at an estate sale, and it's lived in many rooms throughout many homes I've had, but it stays here. And my husband, he is a weighted blanket person. He loves his weighted blanket, so the weighted blanket lives there. And I make the bed every day. I think I read something somewhere where if you make your bed every day, if you've had the worst day and you felt like you've got nothing accomplished, if you make your bed when you come home, you will always feel like you had something accomplished. It kind of sets the tone for the day to make the bed. But my husband does have to put his weighted blanket up. And then, as you see, Buckley has his spot over in the window. He loves that spot, and I think it's kind of funny. My draperies are ivory. They're ivory linen. But if you look at the bottom, they're a little bit darker. And that's okay, because that's where Buckley, he likes to lay there. That's his spot. and those are just his little love stains on the curtains, and they make me happy. So when we moved in, the home had been taken very good care of, but it was in the 90s style. So the first priorities I had were to look at the kitchen and update the kitchen. I had a lot just blank drywalls, sheetrock walls, and I knew I wanted to add moldings, details, things that made the home feel like some of the older homes that we had lived in previously. So we started with updating the kitchen, we painted everything, changed out light fixtures, and started with a neutral background. I like to use Benjamin Moore Ballet White in pretty much all of my rooms to get started, and then as we went from room to room and lived here a while, I then was getting a feel of like what the light is in each room at certain times of day and in the evening, and so then I would kind of go from there. And I'm not afraid to paint a room when you move in and then maybe a few months later repaint it. I think that's where you really can feel like what is speaking to you color-wise. Right off of my bedroom is our hallway that goes back to the kitchen, and in this space, it's just a long hallway that goes to our garage, but I do like to put things back here that make me happy. My sister is a very talented designer and artist, and she does these hand-drawn portraits. So this is our home where we lived when our boys were brought home from the hospital, and then this is our home now, and I love to put these here because she made them, and it's just the homes that we've lived in with my boys. And then our son's school, they have a wonderful art program. These were all done at their lower school, so kindergarten through 5th grade. And the boys did all of this art, and they were so proud of it. These are their self-portraits from our kindergarten play. They both were drummer boys. So this is my younger son, this is my older son, and I love to display this. I love a gallery wall, and these, sometimes they need a little straightening because I do have lots of people coming through here, but I love to display their art. The little pug they did after our pug dog, and then right in here, as mentioning that I love gallery walls, this is my laundry room, which is right off, and it's just a large room, very typical of this time of the homes were built, but I jazzed it up with some beadboard and some hooks, and then my gallery wall of everything that I've purchased through the years that I really don't have a place for, but I joke that if I love something and I don't know where to put it, it goes in here in the laundry room on the gallery wall, and it just kind of lands here, from the little museum bees to some cross stitching to these little Boyin girl that my grandmother had hanging, some watercolors. Just, this is kind of where it lands. So in my laundry room, like I said, it's a very long space with a big wall, and I said before, a large wall can be kind of daunting. So I added, like I said, beadboard and hooks, and then I added this William Morris wallpaper. It is very busy, but it has just a lot of movement to it, and nothing makes me happier than a pretty busy wallpaper with art on top. I love it. And the cabinets are painted Adirondack Green by Benjamin Moore. They're original to the house. I decided to save some of the budget and just have them painted, and they work well. We keep cookbooks, all of my boys' fishing things. Little fun fact, I'm the fishing coach at our boys' school on the fishing team. So at any moment you will see fishing lures, fishing poles, outdoor hats. It's just, you may see those around here, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And usually I'm in here doing laundry, but today I'm all caught up. All right, welcome to our powder bathroom. It is a large bathroom, probably larger than you would normally see. I think originally the owners had plumbing for a shower here if they ever needed that, but I always love a little jewel box small powder bath. So it kind of a little bit of a tier that I wasn't able to have that. I actually wanted to add a wall, but my My brilliant builder and cabinet maker suggested building this hutch here because we had room for it, and my cabinet maker said, Tori, I really think you're gonna need space. And boy, was he so spot on, because I use this again to store my many collections of dishes and china, and I use every inch of it. So I love this T-bow wallpaper. It's very large in scale. I think it has a 40-inch repeat. So because I have such a big powder bath and a big wall, it can handle it, and it's just, it's a great statement piece. And I have this collection of Wedgwood blue plates here. I love to put plates on the wall. And I have a lot of this. In fact, I think I have so much of it, I think I could still have a dinner party and have these on the wall. And then I just like to display over here some things I've collected. The abstract art is a local artist. Her name is Liz Thompson. She's Pretty Your Party. And she and I met through cookies. She actually taught me. She was kind of a mentor to me for cookie decorating. She was like the OG cookie decorator here in Montgomery, but she now does art, and she's very talented. And so I just love that it's a little unexpected. I have such traditional design, and I love to bring in a little bit of abstract art when I can, and I think that the pastel colors work really well in here. One of the things that I love to display is this watercolor of our wedding invitation. A friend's mom had this done where she looked online and found the church, because she lived in Mississippi, so she had never been to our church, and she had a local artist in Jackson, Mississippi watercolor the church where my husband and I were married, and it's one of my most loved pieces, and I like to look at it in here, and our guests can see it when they're in here in the powder bath. All right, so we've seen most of the rooms in my home that are reflective of my style, and lots of florals and girly items my family lets me choose. But let's go check out the manly space upstairs in the upstairs den, game room, playroom area. One of my favorite aspects of design are textiles, printed fabrics, stripes, plaids, small prints, geometrics. I love them all, and I love drapery. I've been so fortunate to work with a workroom, a seamstress that I've known since I was a little girl, and I joke that she is just, I used to call her Rumpelstiltskin. I could take her some fabric and say, Pat, I need these drapery just whenever you can get to them, and the next day she would call me and say, well, I've got them ready. So I've been just immensely blessed by her, and all of her drapery has been in all my homes. But printed drapery, stripes, to all of the patterns I love. So we have a swimming pool and a covered porch, and out here just wanted to create an environment where we can live out here and entertain and just enjoy it. I always say, at the end of the day, I just want to come home and be at my house and be comfortable, and I think that's what we've created. A couple of things about these wicker sofas. I found one of these at an estate sale, and I loved it because I love wicker. I love the braid detail, and I knew I wanted two, but there was only one. So I found the identical twin sister. She's out there, and brought her home, got her painted, and had the outdoor cushions recovered. Had the cushions recovered with outdoor fabric. But when I got it out here, I thought it was a little too small. So my sister, she is so clever. She messaged me, you're not gonna believe it. We have found not her identical sister, but her little sister. So I have now the love seat, the sister, and then the other one lives out there. So out here, and we use outdoor fabrics, watch television out here, created this built-in outdoor buffet where we have the refrigerator so the boys can grab waters from the pool, a little sink. It's a great spot to just set up food for when you're entertaining and watch television out here. And I just, of course, displayed some of my favorite plates. The green bird plates, I did pick those up at an antique store in the Cotswolds, and they've lived in the sunroom before, but they've made their way out here. A family of 4, so we don't need much more room for the 4 of us. So I like the scale of this table. It doesn't overpower the space. I love wicker. I love the wicker chairs. And today I just have it set with some of my favorite cabbageware and rattan flatware that I love. Fun fact about the South, if you ever see a covered porch in the South and you look up, you will notice that most of them are painted blue. I have mine painted Delmar blue by Benjamin Moore, but I think usually they're a little bit lighter blue, but the tradition is that bugs, spiders, they don't like the color blue, so they tend to stay away from blue. So if you just drive around and if you notice a covered porch, particularly on an older home, always look up, you'll see it's blue. That is the Southern tradition, to have blue ceiling on your covered porch. And then out here is our pool. Our boys love to swim. We love to get out here and relax. We're in morning light right now, but the great thing about how our home is set up is in the afternoon, so usually around 1 o'clock, the sun, this is all shaded. So right now we're in the morning, we have a lot of sun, but it's just all of this will be shaded, so you can sit out here and enjoy just the beautiful weather. We're having beautiful weather right now. So the favorite thing about my home is the layout of it. Like I said, it's a home built in the 90s, which was completely opposite of anything I had ever tackled. I always lived in older homes, but when you walk in and it has just a circular flow, it flows from room to room, it just makes a big circle, and I love that. I love it for my family when it's just the 4 of us here, because I can hear and see the children and my husband in other rooms, but I also love it when I have friends over. It just has the best flow. We use every room in the home, especially all the downstairs rooms. And I just love that it's light-filled and bright, and I have it full of all my treasures from my grandmother and my parents and things that I've found. But that's my favorite thing. It's just, I love the layout of it. Home means to me just a place that I just long to be. When I'm out and about and wanting to travel, everybody wants to travel, but usually that last day of a trip, I just want to be home with my family, with my dogs, around all of my people. And I love that I've created my home to be warm and comfortable and cozy. It's a spacious home, but I do feel like it has so many cozy spaces where we can gather, and I love having friends over, small groups or larger groups, but home just means a place where you long to be. All right, Homeworthy, I've loved showing you around my home in Montgomery, but it's time to go. Bye.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Clay Snider, and welcome to my home in Midtown Atlanta. Come on in, y'all.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Clay Snider. I'm an interior designer. Welcome to my home. Well, I found this house because I was walking down the street on the phone and literally fell over the for sale by owner sign and contacted the owner, and he just went from there, and that was 24 years ago. It was literally unlivable. It was totally up my alley because I don't like things that other people have already done, so that's what drew me to it. When I first bought this house, there was a fence, a privacy fence that went around the whole property, and the day of closing I bought a chainsaw and came over with a friend and cut the privacy fence down to show off the house. And so after that, we just started peeling back all the different layers of the onion to it, so it seemed like it was just a little paint and kind of get it going, but it was a lot more than that. My home style is very eclectic. I like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I like very traditional, obviously, but I like a little funk thrown in too, and my style changes from day to day. When people walk into my house, I want them to feel like they are at home. I want it, maybe not their home, but they feel comfortable and they feel like they can sit down and relax. And even though I like nice things, I like every room to feel like you can just sit down and relax. Welcome to my living room. The art in here came from, every summer we go to Provincetown, Massachusetts, and Cape Cod area. And I try to buy something every time I go. And so I didn't realize how much I had. And so I have had the collection of these sea anemones and saltwater fish. And then also I bought several like big paintings there as well. And so I sort of just assembled it all together and decided that that was going to be the theme for the art of the living room. Well, I had these sconces in here forever that I actually bought at Ballard Backroom Designs, but it was based in Atlanta. It was years ago, and they were a pair of them, but they didn't match because one was broken. So I just sawed the other one off, and they've been with me for like 25 years. Then I bought these plaques at another sale, and I decided to mount the sconces onto the plaques, and I quite like that. So then it made this area that I felt like I needed to surround it with something. So then I decided to get all my Cape Cod, Provincetown art together and surround it. So I think it created a great little gallery. Well, there's a lot of seating in here because I just like a lot of stuff, and I didn't mean to have so much. So used to, I had just the piano and a sofa and a chair in this chest, and then over time I've layered, and all of a sudden now I've got seating for like 12 people in this tiny little room, but I like it and it feels comfortable to me. And the fact there's like a big piano in a tiny room, but it works for how I live because I love live music. I had a piano before that was old and was great, but I was at an estate sale on the last day of the sale. At estate sales, pianos never sell typically because they're hard sell and to have them moved and whatnot. And so I was at an estate sale on the last day, and they said, they needed to get rid of it. It's a player piano. It's compared to my old, just normal piano. And so I made them an offer, and they said it was fine, but it had to be gone that day, but nobody could do it. And I said, well, I happen to know people that can move it today. So I got it for next to nothing. And it is a player piano, and we use it all the time. The Coca-Cola sign I bought at a little roadside little junk shop years ago, but it was from a store in Ohio, and it was out in front of the store. It's double-sided, and it would spin around in front of the store. And I would love to have it somewhere one day where it actually could do that. But for right now, I just have it because it's just a conversation piece. It doesn't fit in with my everything else, and that's why I like it. And it's always a little conversation piece. I bought this piece at the Scott Antique Show when I was in college, so many moons ago, 30-ish years ago. And it was at the Scott Antique Show, and it was there again. It was on the last day of the show, and I offered the guy like next to nothing and got it. And I've hauled it around every house I've lived in since, and I love it. It's still tons of storage, and it just is a big chunky empire piece, and I think it looks great. So I did the draperies in here because this used to be 2 rooms. It was a bedroom and a living room, and I took the wall out to actually moved the wall to create a foyer. And so in doing that, the windows and the doors don't match up on the front of the house. So I didn't want to change the front of the house architecturally. So I just chose to drape the wall, and then I hung this contemporary piece above the sofa. And there again, I think it works great for how I live. I have a horrible problem with collecting books. In fact, coffee table books. In fact, I cut myself off several years ago with buying books because I have another home. And when I moved there 5 years ago, I collected 100 books from this house and took them to the to my farm, and you couldn't tell there was one missing. But I buy them at estate sales for the most part for nothing. But I also buy them garden books and architecture books and design books, and I do use them, and they are like very, they're useful. Some of them, a Bunny Williams book I have two of them, Affair with the House. They're both falling apart because I've referenced them so much. But I find like I love a glossy coffee table book for inspiration, and I obviously have many of them. Welcome to my foyer. I just had Philip Jeffries came out with this new mural wallpaper, and they printed it really fast for me. So, and I love it, but it's just a reflection of me, really. It's like I do a lot of mural wallpapers, so a lot of them are formal and French looking, and this is just a landscape, and I really love it. I also love this. I have a ball of barbed wire that I've had for years, and it's like I don't know. It's something that I think is super cool, and everybody always comments on it, and I love it too. This actually used to be the living room of this house, and I made it into just the foyer, and so that's why there's a fireplace at the front door of my foyer. I also love these columns that I got at an estate sale for nothing. They were laying behind a house and they were crusty and nasty, and I brought them back and used them in here, and now they look amazing with this wallpaper. The entry table is actually a Mitchell Gold piece from a long time ago, and it's more rustic in nature, but it actually now works with my wallpaper. So I love the idea of that it's like, you know, not fancy and formal, but it kind of like does a high-low little design aesthetic. So the lantern that I used here is actually, bought a pair of them. They were $20 a piece at a sale, and I love them. And I have one in the front foyer, one in the rear foyer, but there is a lighting company that they paint the inside of their lanterns a contrasting color, and so, but they're also several $1,000s. So I took my $20 lantern and painted the inside of it a fun color so that it would just sort of give a little pop in here. So the mantle, I never cared about this mantle because it's original to the house, but it was never anything that stood out. But when I did the wallpaper, I had the trim in here lacquered, and all of a sudden the mantle became the fireplace became alive. So I have this painting that I bought at an estate sale in Newnan, Georgia several years ago of this little boy that I think is it's just awesome. And then these cloisonne vases that I've had for a long time, all of a sudden the colors just all came alive. And so it makes me happy. So in the winter, I build a fire every night, and I love this fender. It's from England, but you can sit on it and actually, sit by the fire. Not that we do, but I love the idea of it. But then also this little chair, I sort of inherited it from a project, but it's a fireside chair, and it was everybody always comments that it's so short, but it is meant to be an actual fireside chair. And so it's like, just a charming little old chair that I think is cute to have by the fireplace. About 22 years ago, I put this wallpaper and it's grass cloth, and we did the ceiling and the walls. And I loved the wallpaper, but I did all the trim white, and I didn't love the white. So I just had all the trim lacquered to kind of more go with the wallpaper. And we left, I can't believe it's still up here after all these years, but I still love it. And then I was wanting something that was dramatic and not that you'd see in everybody else's house. I had a mirror in here, a Louis Philippe mirror, which they're lovely, but lots of people have them. So I found this at an estate sale in Newnan, Georgia, and it absolutely was not what I was looking for. And I saw it, and it could not be more perfect. The colors, the scale, the size, everything of it just makes me happy. And I bought this buffet at the Scott Antique Market here in Atlanta years ago, and I've hauled it around to numerous houses as well. It's just tremendous storage as well. When you live in a little house, it's great to have. I love this birdcage chandelier. Always loved the style of those. And then also with the chandelier, when I first did this years ago, I wanted a beautiful medallion, but for the ceiling, but the medallion I wanted was at this showroom here called Mrs. Howard. And I saw the medallion and I fell in love with it. And then when I found out how much it cost, it was like $3,000. I was like, well, that's not going to work. So I went to Ballard Design, the back room again, and they had 2 wall art pieces, and I just stuck them up there and hung the chandelier, and it's the same effect. And so it's like, it to me looks, I'm not happier spending $100 than $3,000. But then also I have the concrete balustrade lamps that weigh about a bazillion pounds each, but I love having the different light and also the painting light. It gives a great glow in here at night. So years ago, I was in an estate sale actually here in Atlanta, and the guy knows where I'm from. I'm from South Georgia, the next town over from where Jimmy Carter is from, Plains, Georgia. And he had this painting, and it's a painting of Jimmy Carter's mother, Lillian Carter. And it was never finished. You can see like the details of the face and up here, but as it goes down, it was never finished. And so it wasn't all that expensive, but it meant something to me. It was interesting to me because of who she was and where she was from and where I'm from. And of course, I also love the colors in it. This chest, which needs to have lots of work done to it, but I've had this since I was in college, and I got it for free, but it's a bow front, English bow front chest, and it's beautiful. And I got it for free and never did anything to it to restore it, but I still love it. And then I always like to have a little bar set up here with our, peanut butter, tequila, and whatnot, so that friends can make a little drink when they come over. I love this table. It is an English breakfast table. I've tried numerous tables in here over the years, but I've had this table for a long time, and this room is not very big. And so the breakfast table is narrow, and so it works for me for traffic walking through this room. And then I had some dining chairs that for a long time that I actually loved. They were French oval back chairs, and I loved them, but I was in an estate sale, and the last day of the sale, the person said, I commented on these chairs, and the person said, well, you can have them for $50 a piece. And so I decided, well, I guess I like them better than my oval back chairs. So I got those, and then I bought these chairs, which I just had recovered in this amazing Lee Joffa fabric. But I was buying something off of Facebook Marketplace for a client, and the woman just said as I was there, would I happen to be interested in host and hostess chairs? And she said, you can have them both for $20. And so I decided I needed host and hostess chairs. And then of course I had them recovered in this beautiful fabric. But I like them. I like having things that are not all matchy. So I have a lot of china and a lot of crystal and all that, but I love to mix it up where it's just like a little of this, a little of that. But I have my sterling, which I'll use every day, and I love it. But the place setting is like I did Wedgwood Georgia plates, which is like the official china of Georgia. And then I bought these plates about 30 years ago in St. Simon's. And this Tiffany blue I've loved, and I've coveted these for years, and I just love that color. And then these are estate sale finds that were like nothing. I think they were a couple dollars a piece, but they just look amazing layered up like this. And then of course I have I bought a set of china at an estate sale. I didn't even really want it, but it had an S on it for my last name. So I bought the whole set and really don't use any of it except these little salt wells. And then I started collecting these different, they're just glass, they're not crystal, but they're different colors. And so I have 4 different colors of them, and they don't necessarily all match the style, but sorta enough. So I just mix it all together. And then a funny thing, I went to an estate sale in Columbus, Georgia several years ago, and these women were asking what something was there. And I said, so matter-of-factly, that was a place card holder. It was obviously a place card holder, and you'd put, like nuts in it or whatever. And so I insisted on buying all of them, and so I had 12 of them. But I've realized that they were not place card holders. They're actually ashtrays that were from like the 50s or 60s for like a bridge club. So you would have where you put your extra cigarette on the top up here, and this would be your ashtray at the bottom. But I still like to put them out because I think they're funny and cute. Although we don't have any allow smoking in here, but we still is cute. I wish I knew what this thing was called. I don't know what it's called, but I bought this at an estate sale years ago, and I just love it. It's like you little separate where you can do flowers in it and or whatever you want to do. But I've coveted it for years, and it just I'd use it for holidays or parties or whatever. And last year I did some renovations here. We're moving my dining table, and we put the table together, and my friend and I were standing back looking at, we put this down the middle of the table, and the center of the table collapsed, and all of it was crushed into like a million pieces, except for these very end pieces. And I'd paid nothing for it basically when I bought it at the estate sale, but I still loved it so much. So there's a little man here in Atlanta that does porcelain repair, and he put it back together for me. So you had to have and I knew that he would need all the pieces. So I very strategically swept up all the little tiny pieces, and he put it back together. And so it just, I wound up paying a lot for it to be put back together as compared to what I paid for it to begin with. But it's one of those things that makes me happy to look at. So years ago, I did a room in the show house, the Atlanta Symphony show house at the St. Regis Hotel. It was the first, when the St. Regis first opened. I don't even know how long ago that's been, 20 years maybe, but I did a space in the show house, and I had this banquette made for a corner space, and we were taking it in. We only had so much window of time to get into the show house, and so for the elevators and whatnot. And so we were taking it in, and they were like, it's not going to fit because of the legs on it. And so, of course, I'm like, oh, it's going to fit one way or another. We've got to get it in here, whatever. So I took a hammer and tore the legs off of it, and it fit in there. We screwed them on there, and it's still propped up with the temporary legs, however many years, 20 years later. But it works great as this little corner thing, and when I have people over, it's so funny. People always gravitate this little corner banquette. Now let's go into the kitchen. Years ago, when I bought this house 24 years ago, I didn't have any money to do anything with, and because I had an apartment building behind here to have to renovate to try to help pay for the house. And so the kitchen was the original to the house. It was a little tiny kitchen with a breakfast room, and I was just going to live with it because it was what it was. I didn't have any money. And so I was walking through here one night, and the sink used to be in front of this window, and I was walking through on the phone, and I fell through the floor into the basement. And I was on the phone, my phone went across the room, and I was screaming, laughing once I realized I was okay. Because I realized that my biggest fear was the movie Money Pit from years ago, when Tom Hanks falls through the floor, and I actually did exactly what he did. So it's like, it just made me, I'm like, well, here we are, the Money Pit. But that started the renovation, so I immediately had to redo the kitchen. So, because the floors were gone and the cabinets. So I redid the cabinets and did these countertops, the backsplash, and I just have studied old English kitchens, and I always loved the faucet that came out of the back of the wall, and I loved the arch of the backsplash, but I couldn't find someone or a template to do it with back then. So the countertop people were like, just take a pencil or marker and draw on the wall what you want. And I did. And they just took from what I drew on the wall and did this fabulous design behind the stove and the sink with the double OG edge. And I still love it, 20 something years later. It makes me happy. I did recently, I had this hood was here. I did put a hood in years ago, but we actually just painted it blue and then put the brass on to give it a little jazzier feeling. And then the wallpaper is mulberry from England. I love it too. It's all the blues and the colors that are kind of, to me, relaxing. the art I have in here, actually, like, I'm from the country, from a farm in South Georgia, so a lot of things in here like mean something to me. But years ago, I was looking through a book, and I don't even remember the circumstances, but I saw it was about Southern artists, and I saw this painting that was in there, and I was like, that is my grandmother's house that my brother lives in now. At the time, my brother and I owned it together, but he now lives there with his family. But I saw the painting there, and it was from an artist from our town, Helena Meek. And so, but I didn't know she'd done a painting of my grandmother's house. And so my mother contacted them and bought it for me for a Christmas present. So that means something great to me. And then below that is my other grandmother. It's a ration book holder. And in World War II, when they were given rations for food, it was the big deal to have one left over. And she had one ration stamp left over, and she kept it all those years. And so I had it framed in this little shadow box. So I have something of both of my grandmothers as a little remembrance of them. So, and then it's funny in this room, of all the things I've done in here, back to when I was saying I did this kitchen years ago, the ceiling was, I fell through the floor, and then the ceiling was falling down because it was plaster. And so I had the contractor just put cheap boards up there because we couldn't figure, I didn't want to do sheetrock, so we put cheap boards, and then I had a faux painter glaze it. And there again, I still love it all these years later, and people commented on all the time. It's a great detail. I didn't want another kitchen cabinet piece, but when you live in a small house, like, storage is essential. So I bought this pine piece, which I love, at a estate sale, sort of a garage sale, for like almost nothing. It was crazy. But I use it for tons of storage down here, but also for my ironstone collection. And I just love to I change it out. Right now I just got all the ironstone, but I like to change it out for holidays. Like Halloween's coming up, but Thanksgiving I do a turkey collection. Christmas I've got a Santa Claus collection. Easter, whatever. So it's really great just to highlight all the different collections I have. I started collecting the ironstone because of all this simple, and it's not ironstone, but my grandmother had this little simple set of plates that probably came from like the grocery store or somewhere, like very simple, but she had other little pieces to it too, which I have also, but it's nothing. It's very like homemade and simple looking, but it made me appreciate the simplicity of it. And so then I started adding the, ironstone. Most of it is from England. It's, not American country, but I like just a mix of what I like. Years ago, when I worked for the furniture company, Beverly Hall Furniture Galleries, over 25 years ago or so, we had this thing, it's called a corona, but it's a crown for a bed where you would hang above a bed and you'd have a bed hanging. And I was obsessed with it. I wanted to have a bed with this like really fancy bed hanging, which I never did and never wanted to have really, but I just thought it was cool. But I had bought this thing and I was like, now I have it. What am I going to do with it? So I took the Corona and made it into a pot rack. And so I love this collection. It shows off my collection of all these I've just bought over the years here and there of these copper pots. And then right out the kitchen is my rear foyer. It's where I park and come in, but it used to be a breezeway, and I enclosed it to make this little foyer to connect to the garage. Finished this out and made it into a cute this foyer. And then 5 years ago, a tree fell in the middle of the house and crushed it to the ground. And so I was like, well, we obviously had to build it back, but let's build it back and make it interesting. So it had those glass doors and stuff that I was like, done what I just could at the time. And so now I went back and did this wall, which is porcelain tile, which looks like antique mirror. And then I had this big mirror that I love that would not fit anywhere else in the house. And so, it just sort of worked out. It actually turns out it's one of my favorite spaces in the house, and it's tiny. But because of when the tree fell and there was no roof left on the house, we were able to take the roof up because it was low before and have a chandelier and then have art. So it turned out to be a cool space. This room just kind of like came together because it's so small, but I knew how I wanted it to feel. And so I started out with this chest, and then I needed chairs that would fit here. And then I had a mirror, but then I bought this mirror for my dining room and it wouldn't fit. So it just all sort of was a domino effect. And like, I really enjoy it. Like it makes me happy when I walk in. So there's like, everything just sort of fits me. So when the tree fell in my house, I had just renovated and put these doors in to go into the garage, but they were over a bit. But the only thing left standing after the tree fell were these doors. And so I was like, you know, obviously we have to reuse them again. But so after the tree, I decided to make this into I call it the Pied-à-terre. It's a little apartment. And so it has turned out to be a place where, in part of my house, where when people come over, everybody ends up out in this little apartment. So this was the garage before, and it already had plumbing and all that before the previous owner had a workshop or something out here, and they had a workstation area and all that kind of thing. So it wasn't a big deal to make it into this little apartment, but because it was all here, it just had to figure out the pieces of it. So when the tree fell, I just had it finished out, but as an office storage area, but it was all painted white. And so when it was crushed down the ground, I thought, and we had to build, we could go up a little bit. I was like, well, why don't I do what I want to do? And so we came back and I'm like, I love a dark room. And so I painted this dark blue and I love it. It just feels rich and envelops you and feels like a gentleman's study. And so I've found these, I started out, I guess, this little settee thing, an estate sale. And then I bought these amazing Maitland Smith etagères at an estate sale. And then everything's just kind of gone from there. One of my favorite things in this room is this blue wing chair that makes me crazy but I was in Savannah helping my friend Mary Kay Andrews, one of her events at her house. And I went to an antique shop and I saw the chair across the room and I thought, oh my gosh, I know it's going to be, $1 bazillion. And it actually was only $200. And so I was like, well, that can fit in my budget. So it's like, it's one of those things people always comment on it because who has the powder blue vintage leather chair? So it's a cool piece. And then I know I have lots of like traditional stuff everywhere, but I also just love this contemporary piece. It just sort of is a juxtaposition of all the other stuff I have. And then this is my nod to my dogs. I have 3 dogs and I've had many dogs over the years, but I have dog art here flanking that. And then I have a whole wall of dog art here. And then of course I have a little dog bar set up with all the dog treats and stuff for the dogs because it's dog world over here these days. The kitchen area I added, of course, but there was like a workstation here before with plumbing and all that. And so I put in apartment-sized appliances so that we could fit in a full kitchen. So you've got everything you could possibly need if you lived here. But and then I bought these great steel case windows off of Facebook Marketplace. I have one here and I have one at another house, but I love them because they're from the 50s or 60s and they're just great little architectural detail. And another thing, I love this little wood thing. It's a dumb little detail, but actually I was at an estate sale and it was $5. It was off a piece of furniture, I think, something. But I was like, I think it would fit just right there. So I screwed it up there and it just went, it's a little cornice board and I think it's charming. And then of course we have a little game table area, these little chairs that are little corner chairs that were not meant to be game chairs, but they just work perfect there. Welcome to my primary bedroom, and I want to show you my most incredible find that I found. I was on Facebook Marketplace, and I just had surgery about 3 months ago, and I saw one night there was a corner cupboard on there that was very cheap, and I was obsessed with it. But I'm like, I can't, I don't need it. I just had surgery. I can't get it. And so the next morning it was free. And so I contacted the woman, and she said, come get it. You come get it today, you can get it, it's free. Well, I just had knee surgery, but I'm like, I'm coming to get it. So in the meantime, on the way there, she asked me if I wanted a china cabinet. And I thought, I'm not really a china cabinet kind of person sometimes, so she sent me a picture, and it wasn't a china cabinet. It was a Baker historic Charleston break front, and she said if I could get it that day, it was free. So I didn't have anywhere to put it, but I decided, there again, you live in a small house, you have somewhere to put your clothes, and I never have had anywhere. So I put it in my bedroom, and so I've keep all my clothes, try to keep them tidy in there so that it's like great for storage. I thought I knew what it was the value of it, but a friend of mine that works where they sell this, and they still don't make it anymore, but it's somewhere around like $30,000, something like that in value. So I got it for free. So it's like one of those like Facebook Marketplace, wow. This little seating area, I thought that it was like kind of dumb to have in a bedroom, but there again, I was talking earlier about when the tree fell in my house, the bedroom used to stop along here. And so after the tree fell, I pushed the wall back, and so it created this little area. I actually end up sitting in here all the time. I use my laptop. I watch TV, whatnot. So it actually is like, I thought it was dumb to have, but it's actually very practical, and I end up using it. Bed wall, I bought the one mirror on the left I bought years ago. The company I used to work for, and I paid a lot for it, and I loved it. But then I was at an estate sale, and there was a mirror, and it was a frame that didn't have a mirror in it, and the bottom of it was broken off, and it was $25. And I thought, I think they're about the same, and so they are the same scale. So I bought it and had a mirror put in it, and I use them as a pair, even though they're not. But I love them, and then they make me happy. And then the painting above the mirror, above the bed, it's the same artist that did my grandmother's house. It's Helen Amick, and it makes me happy. It makes me think of South Georgia. It makes me think of, just happiness. And so then I add the fact that everything else is kind of grown off of that. I was looking on Facebook Marketplace. I wanted a new table or an ottoman or something. And this ottoman, so every day I would go in and put ottoman or cocktail table or tea table or something. And this, finally one day it came up and it was round ottoman. And they said it was orange, it's coral actually. And I was like, please let it be coral, please let it be coral. And it was $25. And so I was like, there's got to be something wrong with it. But the people had just bought it, it didn't match their stuff, and the woman wanted it gone that day. So I got a brand new ottoman that matches everything perfectly for $25. Finding stuff on Facebook Marketplace can be hard because people call things different things. Like you can call that an ottoman, you can call it a cocktail ottoman, and see people even call it, that's not, but a hassock. There's all different kinds of names, and they're not necessarily, any of them are wrong. But you have to go in and realize that you may call something a chest, but somebody else calls it a dresser. Or you may call something a china cabinet when it's the break front. Or you call it an armoire, someone else might call it a chifforobe. That's a country word. But you realize when you're on Facebook Marketplace to search in different ways, because you don't always know how someone might have it listed. And so that is like, and then every day to go in and put in, I was looking for marble several years ago for a project, a house I did. Every day I went in and put in marble. I put in Carrara, I put in granite, whatever, for weeks. Finally, one Sunday morning, I put in Carrara, and a picture came up of just stacks and stacks of Carrara marble, and I thought, this cannot be true. Well, it was true, because they had just torn down a building in Midtown Atlanta, the old Wachovia building, and it was covered in white Carrara marble. And I was able to buy truckloads of it for $1 a square foot to do the floors in my kitchen out of it. So it was amazing, but it was only because I looked at every day, you know, diligently going and putting it in different ways, looking it up. Home means a lot of things to me because I work from home. So I like my house to be, every room to be, feel like me. And sometimes my home gets messy because I might want to work in the kitchen one day, or I might want to work in the living room, whatever. But I like my home to feel comfortable and to feel good to me, because I might be working in the bedroom, I might be working in the kitchen. It does, you know, whatever. So I like it to be a place where I want to be.
Hey Homeworthy, my name is Venita and welcome to my Charleston apartment. I cannot wait to show you guys around, so come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hey guys, my name is Venita Aspen. I am a Southern tastemaker and TV personality, and we are in my 1,200 square foot apartment in Charleston, South Carolina. Okay, so I have been living in this apartment for 4 years, and when I first moved in, I actually did not walk through the entire apartment. I walked in and I saw how bright it was, and I said, I'd take it, which is so crazy because I had no idea what the rest of the apartment looked like. So when I came in, I learned that there were a lot of changes that needed to be made. So I wanted to create with this space a calming space for me. A lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis is pretty hectic, so I wanted a sense of calm when I walked through the door. So I've changed light fixtures, I've changed countertops, I've turned my dining room into a closet. I mean, anything you can think of, I've done it to this apartment. So my closet was traditionally they sold it as a dining room, and to me, it's kind of just like a middle ground of the house in between my kitchen and my bathroom. And I ended up designing a walk-in closet in that space instead of using it as a traditional dining room and or switching it into an office. So that is definitely my pride and joy space of my home, besides my porches and my backyard. So this is the apartment that I live in now, is the apartment that I got blessed. And you may or may not know, the television show that I'm on is called Southern Charm, and one of my castmates, who is now a dear friend of mine, lived here prior to me, and upon learning that by receiving his mail one day, I decided to have my apartment blessed not once but twice by a priest. So this apartment is actually the first space I've ever designed start to finish on my own. I don't think I've mentioned it, but when I did live in New York, I had roommates. So this has been my first space I've ever been able to design. So I chose to design this space to, what's the word I'm looking for, to bring out serenity, peace, and calmness. I decided to start with the paint colors first, and then I brought in a style within that. I don't think I have a particular style. I like what I like, and I put it in the room if I like it there. I'm not one of the girls that say, oh, I like Art Deco, or I like maximalist or minimalist. I like it all, so I just kind of figure out where I want things to go and place them, and you know, I learn to basically live with it once I find it. But I think my style could be described as playful, colorful, bold with a hint of calm. You know, I think that's how I would describe it. Welcome to my living room. So I wanted to start by showing you all this piece. And to give you a little background, I think the majority of the items in my home are actually thrifted or antique. I don't tend to buy most things brand new. So this was I think like a $400 find that I got at an antique shop, and I have put all of my favorite books here, including some beautiful plants that have been gifted to me from people who are no longer here that are still thriving, which I love. And one of my favorite pieces on this bookshelf would have to be these opera frames. And I also have the case. I saw these at an antique shop before I even purchased the bookshelf, and I just knew that whenever my bookshelf came, I would put these opera glasses on them. So here they are in all their glory. And moving right along, I have these beautiful lampshades from a woman who is based here in Charleston. Her company, I believe, is called Bibby Home. Sorry if I'm not saying that right, but she custom makes these lampshades. So I wanted something to separate the amount of blue that I had in the space. And I told her to do something out of the box. I gave her all free reign. So we ended up with a yellow lampshade and a lampshade that has hues of purple and cream in them as well, which we'll see once we get to the other side of the living room. But moving right along, my art that's on the wall, when I first started designing my space, I naturally have a preppy aesthetic, and I wanted it to feel preppy but not scream preppy. And my girlfriend Audrey actually sent this art piece to me. She was like, I think this would be perfect for your living room. And it is a beautiful, I don't know how to describe it. It's a beautiful portrait of an individual whose entire head is hydrangeas. And I thought that was exactly what I described. So that's how we landed on that piece. And I've basically framed the rest of the living room around this piece. I painted first, we got the piece. The couch came shortly after. I'm trying to think what else. The lamps, obviously that's a thrifted vintage Ralph Lauren lamp that I found. And the living room just kind of started to come together on its own, and basing it around this art piece was definitely helpful to me, especially when it came to pulling more colors that weren't in the blue family. As you can see, my entire living room is blue. And I didn't want it to feel so blue that it was unapproachable, which is why the pops of color in the lamps came into play. And if we make our way over to my beautiful second lamp that's in my living room that I actually have stacked on books. So I found this lamp and I loved it, but it wasn't tall enough. And I just had this grand idea. I was like, what if I just stack it on some books? And I believe all those books are blue, except for the bottom one. So I stacked it on top of, I stacked the lamp on top of these books. And again, this lampshade just creates such a different visual space for the room. These two vignettes where the lamps are completely different. It almost makes you feel like you're in two separate parts of the living room. Which I love, and giving the artist free reign to kind of do what she wanted allowed me to fall in love with introducing a separate color to my living room. And lastly, we have my little bar area here, which I had been searching for the perfect bar cart for, I don't know, like I think 3 years. And the moment I decided to go on a drinking hiatus, what popped up? My bar cart. So we have this beautiful antique bar cart that I purchased locally from, give me 1 second, it's gonna come to me. Antiques of South Windermere. Oh my God, my brain was like not working. So I purchased this bar cart there, and I got it at a steal. The guy's booth was 50% off that day. So I think I got a really good deal on it. I believe the bar cart is from like 1971, which is to me not that old, but in the grand scheme of things, I guess it is kind of old. And again, with the art on the wall, as well as this one, my friend Angelique again helped me pick the art for this wall. I would not have any art in this living room if it wasn't for her. She introduced me to an artist whose name I can't remember right now, but hopefully we can put it somewhere so you guys can find her pieces. But I wanted this wall to feel calm in comparison to this wall. Even though they're very close to each other, I feel like this is, to me, this has a lot happening. So I wanted some sense of calmness that will allow me to flow into the bedroom, which is completely calm. So we found this set of blue squares, I guess is the best way to describe it. And I think they work perfectly here. I originally had baskets on the wall and opted to put art in its place instead. Being that my space is to most large, but as a fashionista, my space is small. I don't have a lot of space for the clothes and bags. I have, as you can see, put some of my clothing and shoes items into my decor. I have a pair of vintage Manolos that I found at the Real in LA for $70. I know I'll never wear them, so I put them into decor. And then I have this beautiful bag from Over the Moon in the poolside that I just figured when I take the bag out, you look how empty the space is, and we add it in, and it is just the perfect pop for that corner. It's a monogram bag that they so kindly gifted to me after we had a dinner here in Charleston for a store opening. And I just, it ties it in perfectly. It gives me a little bit of that preppy flair that I like, but it's not so to the T of being preppy, which again is something that I love and appreciate when it comes to my style. So my house scent is weird because each room has a different scent, which I know is overwhelming for most, but the living room is Palo Santo, very calm, brings you back to a sense of, just peace and being grounded. So that's my living room scent. And this candle in particular is from Celadon here in Charleston, and it has a base of sandalwood. The middle scent is cedar and pine, and the top is a cypress that I cannot pronounce, so I will not even attempt to butcher it right now. And it just smells so yummy and warm and inviting. And it's a candle that I can burn year round because it's not scent specific to like a holiday or a time, which I love. So in this corner, I kind of have like my stationery, my keys go here. It's kind of like my placeholder. So my home isn't set up in a traditional way. So I don't have a foyer that I can just kind of throw all my like whatever things in. So I created this little space here, which this is a Serena and Lily bar cart that I have placed. Anyway, hey Charles, they did a collab with Over the Moon. So I keep pens and pencils in the top, small letters and stationery in the middle, and then my larger stationery items and more unique pieces of stationery in the larger one, and mail that I need to remember. So I kind of use these suitcases as more of a storage solution for my stationery and my mail, which is pretty fun. So I really do enjoy the art of stationery and writing letters. I feel like in this day and age, we are so used to being able to talk to someone so quickly, and the thoughtfulness is kind of lost because you can do it in such a quick way. Whereas I have a really good friend of mine named Ryan, and every single time we hang out, 3 days later or 4 days later, I always have a letter in the mail saying, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate our friendship. So I picked up on that, and I started doing that on my own as well. So once I hang out with someone or we have dinner, I do send some snail mail to them, which is kind of fun because it kind of breaks up the hecticness of the world that we live in our day-to-day life by receiving a handwritten letter or note from someone who loves and cares about you. So when I first moved into this apartment, I only had one closet, and it is right here. And this closet also holds my washer and dryer. So what I ended up doing is I partnered with Graceful Space Organizing. We completely changed the way this closet worked. So we store all of my fall and winter items in here. Being that I live in Charleston, I do not reach for those items often at all. We have all of my backup like skincare, hair care products, paper towels, vases, and like random things like hats and sunglasses. They all belong in this space with my washer and dryer. Some days I still can't believe that this was the only closet I had the first year and a half that I lived in this apartment. It blows my mind. And once you see the closet that I currently have, you'll completely understand why that is the case. Moving over to our fireplace. So I have two fireplaces in my home, and neither of them work because my home is split, and there's another unit above me. But I decided to add some candles for ambiance in the fireplace area, and my boyfriend so kindly gifted me for one Christmas this Marshall speaker that I use to create a surround sound effect when I'm watching television and movies. And I think that it fits so perfectly with my aesthetic. It's like vintage but new all in one. And then obviously tips and tricks. This basket, I cut a large hole in the back and it holds every single wire that is for the speaker, the cable box, my television. It's all stored in here, which is great. And it took me a bit to find that concept, but it was one that I thought worked best for me in my space. And I love still being able to tie in my love of wicker and rattan by having that box here too. So when it came to designing this space, the original lighting that I had in the living room was pretty drab, and I wanted something that, again, the words peace, serenity, and calm are words that I will continue to use throughout this entire tour, but I wanted a light that gave me that same feeling. And since I decided to paint the living room blue, I wanted to have a white light that resembled a cloud. So it was kind of like I was resting in the clouds when I came home. I know that's silly to say out loud, but I love it. I kind of live in that too. I just wanted a very strong sense of peace in my home. So this is where this light comes into play as my cloud, if you will. And being that my space is completely blue, when it comes to florals, I can kind of play a little bit more, I think. And my friend Sunny always delivers these beautiful florals to me, and he appreciates and loves my love for orchids. So there's always orchids somewhere within the florals, which I think the color and hues now tie in so perfectly with the lamp that is actually a new addition to the living room. But yeah, Sunny makes the most insane florals. Like, I mean, insane. Imagine taking your Pinterest photo, handing it to him, and then he hands it right back to you. That's Sunny. And we love Sunny for that. The florals are, I mean, my favorite part of the house, obviously, but they're beautiful. So when I first walked into this apartment, I knew immediately that I wanted it. Hence the fact that I walked in, cut the corner once, and I didn't even see the back of the house. All I saw when I walked in was the amount of light that poured into this house. And it was the only apartment that I looked at. It was the first apartment I looked at upon moving back from New York to Charleston. And I kind of knew right away, like, this is mine, but I had no idea how I was going to design it. I started off with a lot of rattan, a lot of wicker. I wanted it to feel so Palm Beach because that was a place at the time I was traveling to quite a bit, and it was a happy place for me. So I thought I was going to go that route, and then as time went on, I kind of found my own style within the Palm Beach aesthetic. Some things still make an ode to Palm Beach, like a lot of orchids all over the home and bold colors, but yeah, that's kind of how I felt when I first walked into the apartment. I knew right away that this was the apartment for me. So when designing the living room, being that my bedroom is only separated by 2 sliding doors, I wanted to be able to create a room that had the same sense of calm, but a lot more colors. So if we come through my pocket doors here, which I'm sure you'll see Charles, patiently waiting on me to get to the other side. So in order for these rooms to flow together, I wanted to play more with the colors that some of them are in the hydrangea head, some of them are in the living room. The lamp kind of ties in with the mustard or chartreuse color that's on the bedding. The blues, again, are tied in with the headboard, some of the pillows, and green has been a color that I've always kind of been afraid of, which is so wild for me to say because I'm basically wearing a yellow green right now. But it's been a interior color that I definitely have been a little weary of. So I decided to play with that when it came to the curtains that I have hanging in my bedroom. I like a room to always feel light and airy, but especially a bedroom. So I did not want to put a heavy curtain in this room. So I went with a linen blend curtain instead. So it always allows some light to come in, and I can just filter it if I decide to close the curtains at any point or blinds at any point during the day. And Mr. Charles here, who is so cutely sitting in his bed, needed his own station. So I found this chest at Celadon, and I believe it actually was meant to go in the kitchen. It has this little like tray, so I'm like, maybe put a cocktail here or something. I don't know. We haven't tried it out yet, but I store all of his toys, his clothes, his medicine, and food in the bottom of this, and some of my overflow items go in the top. Like I have a few purses in here and a bag or two. And when it came to my bedroom, again, I wanted to put an emphasis on my love for color. I didn't want to have another room that felt as singular in color as my living room does. So we played with hues of oranges, green, chartreuse, and blues. And this rug is a unicorn find because I found this rug on the biggest sale. I think it was 90% off or something like that, which I didn't even think existed. And this is a 9x10. So we all know how expensive a 9x10 rug is. So for me to find that at such a steal was amazing. And at first I purchased the rug for the living room because I wanted to break up the blue in there, but it didn't work. So I brought it on into the bedroom, and I think it just goes so beautifully with all the other colors that I have. And when designing this room, I'm a TV watcher to go to bed type of gal. And at first I thought it was kind of silly to have two TVs right next to each other, in the sense since my living room and bedroom don't have a traditional door. I ended up creating a gallery wall that worked around not only my TV, but my mirror where I sit at my vanity to get ready. And she's still a work in progress, I think, but I have her to a point of love right now. So I really love her. I have some art from a local artist here named Carrie Davis. She makes these unique and fun faces. And I walked into Charleston Artist Collective and I was like, I don't know, the pink might be too bright. And when I put it in the space, I was like, okay, no, it's perfect. I have an original on this wall. I have a print from the internet on this wall, and I have a vintage tapestry on this wall. So saying all that to say, don't be afraid to mix things together. Building a home takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And you don't have to stress yourself out having originals of everything. Sometimes prints are just as beautiful as an original piece of art. Okay, so my vanity. So when it came to designing this room, we all have our landlord woes, and I don't know if you'll be able to air that or not, but we all have our landlord woes. So when I got to my bedroom, they just asked me to not paint anymore. So I had this white vanity. I was going to wallpaper it. I decided not to, but by keeping it white, I felt like it did, once I got this room finished, it did break up the amount of color that was in here, which is really great. So I sit here and I do my vanity. I sit here and I do my makeup every day. I also do my own makeup every single time I film, which I know might be a shocker for some. I know some of the girls love to hire hair and makeup teams on other shows, but I keep things pretty simple unless I'm going to an event. So that's the only time I kind of bring in a glam squad. Other than that, I'm doing my makeup every single time you see me on TV. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And I have a few holy grail beauty products right now. I am loving any and everything, and I'm not going to apologize for how they look because this is real life. Any and everything by Westman Atelier. I currently have 3 blushes by them in 1 contour color, and the pigmentation of their products, I mean, like, look at that. It's insane. It's worth every penny that you'll save up and spend on it. And I definitely think every girl, if able, should have a piece of Westman Atelier products in their day-to-day routine. Okay, so a Cliff Note version of my career. Let's start. I went to culinary school, worked in the field, loved the job, hated the people, left, went to fashion, worked in Charleston in fashion, and then left Charleston, went to New York. I wanted something bigger, hated the company, moved back home. I sat idle for a bit. I worked at a antique shop here in Charleston while I figured out my life. From there, I started a production company. I did that for 3.5 years. In between all of that, I was modeling and influencing on the side. The influencing was not a full-time job. It was just something that I did for fun. And the modeling was more of like a part-time gig for me. And from there, the influencing turned into a full-time job. From there, I stumbled upon reality television, and now we're here. There's a lot more in between, but I didn't want to bore you, so I just gave you that as quickly as I could. Yes, so when I come home at the end of every day, which is partly the reason why I painted my living room blue. I wanted, again, a sense, I'm gonna say the word calm, serenity, and peace a lot throughout this. I wanted to feel that when I walk through the front door, like, okay, I can let everything go now. I can sit down, relax. My place is not a chaotic place or a chaotic space at all. So I definitely feel that sense of overall calmness when I walk in through the front door. And being that I have such a non-traditional space, I had to find this side table, which I will roll out to you, as my like nightstand. Because again, my bed sits right next to the fireplace, and then on the other side there's a door, so I don't have the traditional setup where I could have two side tables. So I found this fun side table, which is blue and white stripe, which pays homage to the blue in the bedroom, which I absolutely love. And when it came to decorating the top of this, I kind of wanted to keep it simple. So I just have some books that I love to read. I'm not the biggest reader in the world, so I typically read the same book over and over again because I'm just that type of person. Like, I like seeing the same story and like discovering new things about it. So I just have a few books here. And then I also have a photo book down at the end, and some dried hydrangeas because they are perfect for every season and they'll never die. So I never have to worry about repurchasing flowers for my room, which I absolutely adore. And coming over to the bed. So being that this is the first space that I have designed fully on my own, when it came to designing my bed, I wanted my bed to have a more is more feeling when it came to the pillows. I honestly think I could add a few more, but some people might call me crazy. I think I have 10 pillows on my bed right now. And I just wanted the color to shine more so in the room through the bedding, which is why I chose to go with the chartreuse color, which was not my first choice. I originally had a black and white bedroom idea, and I decided to add in color. And then I have a beautiful blue quilt that ties in the blue with these pillows. I am a pillow hoarder. I like the idea of having a lot of pillows on the bed. More is more. When it comes to bedding, is something that I really enjoy when I look at other people's homes. So I try to encapsulate that here with the 10 pillows that I currently have on my bed. And my favorite pillows on the bed are from Hunt Slonim, and I discovered this artist through my friend Grace Atwood. She was obsessed with the artist and she constantly shared it on her Instagram. So when I walked into a local shop here in Charleston and I saw they had the pillows, I knew that this was going to be the perfect pop for my bed. Just enough of a pop for me, and then we kind of calm it down again with this beautiful pillow here that has some beautiful watercolors that tie in the chartreuse and blue so perfectly to the bed. I was on the hunt for a bed tray for quite some time, and I found this actually at the same antique shop that I found my bar cart, and I was so shocked at how inexpensive it was because all the new ones are so expensive to me. So I was able to find this vintage rattan bed tray that I think is just so cute, and I do use it. I usually have my iPad sitting right here and my computer. So when I wake up after I've like gotten up, gotten some water, brushed my teeth, did all the things, I get right back in bed and I work from here for a little bit. Again, allowing me to feel calm and peace when I'm working from my bed and not sporadically just working from not having a tray. But yes, that is my bed that I adore. And my art that I have on this dresser here, it's kind of a mix of things. So this pink is actually just a random pin board. So I used to have a mood board that I kept in my bedroom. And once I started to develop the space more, I decided to clear it and just use it as another layer for art that I did not want to hang. So this is by an artist who is no longer painting, by the name of Lauren Taylor. And I actually had this piece in my office and I decided to put it in my bedroom instead. It's absolutely beautiful. And I discovered this artist with a friend of mine, Austin Walker. We went to an art walk in Beaufort, and there was a woman there who created these faces out of steel, and the steel was out of my price point. And when I said that to her, she was like, well, I actually have it in prints too. Again, letting you guys know prints matter, okay? They're just as important. So I ended up purchasing the print of her original sculpture and adding that to my room. A lot of my art has a feeling of strong and belonging. I think that's how I like to describe it. So these two pieces definitely tied that in perfectly for me. I think we've kind of covered the bedroom, and now I'm so excited because the next room that I'm getting ready to show you guys is my absolute favorite room of the house, which is my dining room turned closet. So come with me so you guys can see what that looks like. So we are stepping in to my closet. I definitely have designed a closet of every girl's dreams. So my closet was an empty space when I moved in. None of this was here. And I couldn't decide if I was going to turn it into an office space or I was just going to have it as like storage. And the more I thought about it, the more I said, how crazy would it be if I just flipped it into a closet? So I teamed up with Closet Factory almost 3 years ago now to build out this closet. And I literally designed the closet with my Barbies in mind. So we had to make sure that it did not go to the ceiling. So I had enough space to stack every single Barbie that I have. I have been collecting holiday Barbies since before I was born, thanks to my godmother. So we have a slew of holiday Barbies up here, and I definitely wanted to show them off with the closet design, which is how we came up with designing the closet this way. Like I said, I am a type A organized individual, so making sure everything was organized in this space and it was, you know, beautiful and color coordinated is something that I worked with Graceful Spaces organizing on to make sure happened. When I first organized the space, it was completely different. My heels actually weren't in this closet, they were in the front closet. And when Graceful Space Organizing came, they were like, no, your heels need to go in here. And I said to them, I was like, I don't think I have a heel that's lower than 5 inches. I don't know if that's going to work. But we did some shifting and we made it work. And now all my heels live here, as well as like my purses, obviously everything else, my jeans, boots, my athletic wear. And I wanted this space to have art and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to put in here. And I stumbled upon an original poster from The Wiz, and I found it at, where did I find it? I found it at Elizabeth Stewart Designs, and I left it. And I ended up posting it on my Instagram, and everyone was like, you need to find space for it. You have to find space for it. And I didn't even know how much it cost. I was just like, okay, everyone's screaming at me. I have to find space for it. So I ended up calling them back and was like, do you still have it? And they did, and they held it for me. And we ended up adding it in my closet here to kind of just give something on this wall besides an empty space. And I absolutely love it. It is a beautiful woman who's standing strong, and the colors are just so perfect. They're not distracting, so it doesn't take away from everything else happening in the closet. It kind of just blends in very seamlessly, and I'm obsessed with this. I'm very happy that I found her. And with this space in my closet, it's a little weird. So as you can see, I have a door that separates these two spaces, but behind that door, I have a wall of headbands. I have a wall of headbands here, and I have my necklaces, and I also use this area to store all of my perfume. I originally had all of these items placed here, but I did not want this area to feel overcrowded. When you first walked in, I still wanted it to feel like, again, have a sense of calmness, cleanliness. So I decided to place all of my perfumes and headbands here versus having them here. And I just love this little nook again. And living in Charleston, you will find that a lot of your homes will have these random spaces. And I think the best part is learning how to utilize it and make it work best for you. I would have never thought to hang my headbands here if it wasn't for graceful space organizing, and then deciding to put my perfumes here in lieu of having them in this focal point here. Would you like to talk about perfumes with me, young man? Mr. Charles, are you not getting enough screen time? And yeah, I love my closet. My closet is my dream. The day I have to leave this space, I'll probably cry. So hopefully that's not anytime soon, because I really do love this apartment, and I've definitely made it my own. And my last piece of this apartment is going to have to be the chandelier. So I went to an antique shop called Warehouse 61, and they had the large version of this chandelier. I'd never seen it before. It was astronomical. It was about $8,000. And I fell in love with it that day. And I was like, I said to myself, I wish they came out with a smaller piece, or I wish there was a smaller version of it. And I go to my next consignment shop or antique shop, and what do I find in the booth that I bought the bar cart from? The mini version of the chandelier. And it was on sale. So I knew, I was like, I have to get it. I loved everything in my closet is so colorful and bright. I needed something in this space to match that. And the chandelier, having a slew of different colors and shapes, really felt like it was going to fit the space. And it's just perfect. I could not have created a more perfect chandelier for this space besides the one that we currently have. And I absolutely love her. The chandelier, as I learned from my antique dealer, you can switch these fruits out. And I learned it the hard way, because when I first hung this with my handyman, we dropped it. And I thought that I would never, I lost the chandelier. I thought I lost it. And the antique dealer told me, she was like, no, this is something that you can interchange, and people sell the pieces. So we got online and we found some replacements, and we also found some new pieces to add to the chandelier, which makes it even that much more special to me, because it's like I almost lost her and I got her back. And yeah, she's just, the lighting is very unique. And when it came to pulling this home together, lighting was not something that I was well versed in. And once you start playing with it and understanding, what works for a space and what doesn't, you really grow to appreciate lighting in a whole new light, if you will. No pun intended. But yes, this is my beautiful closet. I love her. She loves me back, obviously. A favorite shoe to show you all. I'm quite torn. I'll give you two sides of my personality. I'll give you one that's a little calm. It'd have to be these raffia heels by Sam Edelman. I say calm, and they're like 4.5 inches, or if not 5. I basically wear these shoes every single time I get dressed in the spring and summer. It's just a very easy neutral. And they're comfortable because they have the platform, and they're very timeless to me. Because I love a very high heel. I know most people do not enjoy them as much as I do. And if I had to pick my handy dandy pink ladder here, and when I first built out this closet, my mom's main concern was, how are you going to reach everything? I was like, Mom, I'll just get a hot pink ladder to stand on everything to reach all of my goods. So my second favorite shoe are these pearl heels from Gianni Bini. As a Southern girl, I love a pearl. And when I saw these, I definitely fell in love. And I feel like this is a neutral, but I don't think most people would find these shoes to be a neutral. And lastly, my favorite shoe. How pretty are these? These are from Hill House, and the owner of Hill House loves a platform. So all of her shoes are platform heels, and she just has fun with shoes, which I can appreciate a lot. And I just love them, the blue and sparkly. And I also consider these to be a neutral, but you know, to each their own. And to give you a lowdown of my handbags as well while we're here, I decided to treat myself when accomplishments would happen in my life. And that was with the purchase of a vintage Chanel bag. And I have a bag from every milestone. So I have one from the year that I was born. I have a 1993 white and gold Chanel bag. I have one from the year that I graduated high school. I have one from the year of my first large partnership. And, you know, I try to make sure with everything that I purchase, from furniture to clothing to shoes, that everything has a meaning and a purpose. So that's kind of how I justify those purchases. But I'm like, oh, well, you know, it's so nice to have one from the year that I graduated high school, you know, which is very fun. And it allows me to create, you know, timeless moments and timeless things within my collection. So now that I have gone through all of my favorite things and shown you guys my closet, let's take a step into my kitchen, which is my second favorite part of the house because I have a background in culinary arts. So I have spent a lot of time making my kitchen just as perfect as my closet. So let me show you what that looks like. What makes a home come alive is seeing the reflection of that individual when you walk through the home. If you had to describe my personality, a lot of people would say it's bright, bubbly, energetic, and calm, which I think is also ways to describe the house. Some of the colors are energetic, but it still has a calm aura. And I think that definitely sets and makes a person's house a home, is being able to see a reflection of them throughout their spaces. I would say to someone trying to figure out how they can tap into their personal style, do what you want first. I think that is like the biggest thing. And as far as interiors go, this was one of my biggest struggles. I had never designed anything before. I didn't want to, you know, spend a lot of money trying to have someone help me. So I had to kind of figure it out as I went. And every decision I end up being the happiest with is the one I decided for myself. And, you know, not allowing others to say, well, that's too many pillows on the bed, or I don't think chartreuse goes in your bedroom. You know, it's like what I wanted. So that's what I did. And I stuck with that. I think that is my number one tip when it comes to getting confidence in any space, but especially in the space of style. Okay, so welcome to my kitchen. So when I walked through this apartment the first time, like I said, I did not make it to this portion of the house at all. So I kind of just moved in on a whim, and the kitchen was a labor of love because when I came in, I had older countertops, which were fine, but they needed to be replaced, but I didn't have the finances to do so. So I went to a marble place, a marble store. I don't know how to describe that. And I asked them for scrap marble that they had for sale. And the gentleman sold me a piece that was very long. And I hadn't measured anything. I'm not one of those. I probably make everyone so annoyed because I don't like measuring things. And I just took it. I was like, it's perfect. It was in my price point. I was like, I'll take it. And I brought it in and I realized that I made it too long. So with that, alongside working with Closet Factory to do my closet, we ended up creating a build out because I enjoy tea and coffee. I used to have coffee here. Now I'm only drinking strictly tea. So we created these drawers and this shelf to make sure that this did not seem silly when we place it within the kitchen, which I love. And I keep bowls, measuring cups, backup storage items here, and all of my glass and containers. Again, I keep things in wicker baskets to kind of keep the vibe going throughout the house. And behind this curtain is actually my water heater. Living in an older home, sometimes you just come across things that are really ugly, and my water heater was one of those things. And I didn't think that it was something that could be moved, so I just decided to hang up a rod and hide my water heater behind a curtain. And being that I don't have a lot of space in here and I have more kitchen items, I think, than I do shoes, believe it or not, I decided to used items that I do use quite often, but use them as decoration instead of hiding them when I ran out of storage for my other pots and pans. So we've placed all of our tea kettles, our water pitchers, our strainers, some Le Creuset pots, some Mackenzie Childs items. I also have a beautiful vintage tea set that I bring out on occasion, which is very fun. My KitchenAid mixer. I just decided to decorate it up there instead. And I know I mentioned earlier that I have a background in culinary arts. And with that, when it came to creating content around it, I didn't have an overhead space above my oven or my stove. So I decided to work with my handyman here to create some shelves that will also allow me to store my cooking books, extra glassware, some vases. This holds olive oil and vinegar, my oven mitts. I just wanted to be able to create more storage when it came to this space. And again, I did not know what I was walking into because I had not come back here. So when I first moved in, my refrigerator actually sat right here. And I had my small kitchen table at the time where my current refrigerator is, and I wanted to open up the space more. So again, I worked with Closet Factory to build this banquette, which also gave me extra storage for all of the kitchen items that I do have. And I came in, being that I live alone, I didn't need a refrigerator that was very large. So I purchased this Chambers refrigerator that gave me the vintage vibe, but it also didn't break the bank. Smeg was a little bit out of my price point, so I found something that was similar, which was this Chambers refrigerator, which is great. And over here, I have all of my plates and some additional glassware. And this piece I actually found at Habitat for Humanity, and it was originally a TV stand, and I paid $25 for it, and I decided to use it to display my plates and to place my microwave. Being that it was made originally as a TV stand, the hole was already in the back for me to make sure I could plug my microwave in. And we have just displayed my plates here and some glassware, and Graceful Space Organizing also helped me place some linens for table settings up here, as well as additional pictures that I use within this space. Some fun things about my kitchen is my wallpaper. My wallpaper is peel and stick wallpaper. Being that I rent, I didn't want to place wallpaper in this apartment permanently, and I worked alongside Chasing Paper to put up and place and figure out what wallpaper was going to work best for my space. I let them know that I was a fan of blue and pink, and they were like, we have the perfect wallpaper for you. And this was the room I felt like I could have more fun when it came to design, because it is an enclosed space where my other two spaces are pretty open. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So at first I was a little scared. I was like, how do I style around such wild wallpaper? But I ended up stumbling upon an artist at one of the home stores I like to shop at here in Charleston called Celadon, and her name is Savannah. And when I reached out to her, I told her I wanted something that was big and bold and unique, and that was not going to distract, but more so complement the wild wallpaper that I had. And she showed me this in a print, and I asked her, I was like, I think I want the original. I didn't want a print. And I wanted the original because of the texture that is on the painting. You can't get that in a print. So I opted for the original here. And it is, it's absolutely beautiful. I love it. Again, it ties in with the women that are in my bedroom that just give this strong presence. And her hair being a palm is very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very much an ode to Charleston and palm trees. And, the green now ties in with the green in the bedroom. And it was just a very spectacular piece. And I was very happy and excited that she was able and willing to sell her original to me, because that was a big ask and I was a little nervous. And I was very happy that she said yes about that. And since I do a lot of cooking and I don't have a lot of space, I did not want to take up my shelving space by putting my spices within them. So I opted out for a floating spice rack. that you see here, and we have everything labeled beautifully. Graceful spaces. Organizing actually switched out the canisters that I had, and they were like, how do you feel about a bamboo top on your spices? And I said, I'm game for it. So they did that for me, and they also included magnetic knife holders for me. My knives are very special, and I like to make sure that they're protected and on display. So we have them here, which makes it very easy for me to grab them while I'm cooking. I can just turn around and do this number, and then my spices are here, which is great. And then I can do this in this portion of the kitchen, or all my oils, additional overflow for spices, and all of my baking items as well. So now that we have gone through and shown you everything that is to love about my kitchen, I want to show you one of my last favorite spots of my home, which is my side porch. And living in Charleston, having a porch is the best thing available. So this is my lovely porch. I have a strong love and appreciation for flowers and gardening, and when I moved into this space, one of the main reasons why I did ultimately decide to choose it is because my front and back porch were very spacious, at least from what I saw online, because as you know, I did not cut the corner when I first made it into the house. And I knew it was a place that I could make feel very Charleston and bring my own flair to it as well. So I keep potted plants around year long, and I also keep an herb garden back here in the corner, and I have 2 citrus trees back here as well that are finally blooming some citrus. So I'm very excited to see what amount of citrus I can get from them this year. And I also have just this one cute seat here, party for one if you will, because I didn't want to overfill the space too much. I didn't want a table and chair situation. I wanted the back porch to be a place where I can come and relax. The word home means to me, and you can take a wild guess at my answer, the word home means a place of calmness, peace, and serenity, which I know I've said over and over and over again, but you know, we live in such a world where things are constantly being thrown at you, or things always feel out of whack. And you know, your home is the only space where you set the standard of the feeling, the look, the feel, the vibe, everything. So those would be my 3 words to describe the word home to me.
Today we're in Raleigh, North Carolina for a look inside the home of artist and potter Caroline Boykin. This 1960s house needed a lot of love, but Caroline fell for its soul and transformed it while keeping its original charm. Soft neutrals let her antiques, family heirlooms, and layered artwork shine, reflecting her feminine, classic, and cozy style. And we'll even step inside her studio where her creativity comes alive in every detail. To watch Caroline's full episode ad-free, scan the QR code on screen or click the join button below.
Homeworthy, hello, I'm Caroline. Welcome to North Carolina. I can't wait to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we take you inside the world's most beautifully decorated homes and introduce you to the brilliant people who live there.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Liz Lang. Welcome to Grey Gardens.
Click the join button below to access all of our latest episodes ad-free and watch extended cuts of this and other homes, opening the doors to new rooms and exclusive content featuring our beloved hosts.
I can't wait to see. I'm so excited.
And if you're looking to shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy tastemakers, be sure to use the product links below or scan the QR code on screen. to find fabulous furniture, coffee table books, and accessories that can transform your house into a home.
Hi, I'm Caroline Boykin. I'm an artist and welcome to my home in Raleigh, North Carolina. This house is designed by Arthur McKinnon. I think it was built in 1961 or two, but he was kind of a famous architect here in Raleigh. He built St. Mary's School and a lot of residential spaces throughout Raleigh. A lot of them have sadly been torn down now. When we first got to come see the house, we'd seen the outside and fallen in love with it, but had no idea what we would be walking into when we came to see it for the first time. And the house was very much in disrepair. It was an older couple that lived here before us, and they just couldn't keep up with everything. So as soon as we came in, my husband went with the realtor to talk about the important things, and I meandered around by myself and just absolutely fell in love with the possibilities of the space. And my husband, was checking on the foundation and all of the things that were important. So after we finished, it was in the beginning of February, the beginning of February when we came and saw it. And so out front, the people who built the home, they planted a big cherry tree. And so the cherry tree was blooming. It blooms a big, beautiful white bloom first, and then those fall and the leaves come. And so my husband and I met underneath that cherry tree, and it happened to be raining cherry blossoms on us that day. And so it just felt very magical and beautiful. And so Will, my sweet husband, was like, oh my gosh, absolutely not. This house, it probably should be torn down. It's way too much work. And I just was standing there, with the cherry blossoms falling in my hands, with tears in my eyes. And the rest was history. Y'all follow me into the sitting room. This is one of my favorite spots in the house. It is the low ceilings. There are no ceiling lights in here, which we kept that way. So it's moody and fun. And this is where we put our Christmas tree. And my girlfriends and I usually will end up in here. Lots of seating, lots of gabbing, very fun space. This hearth was original to the home, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's gorgeous. I did a little research, and it was imported from Italy. It's from the late 1800s and carved beautifully. You can see the cornucopia and the floral motif. I think it's quite lovely, but it's incredibly ornate. So I tried to combat how ornate and kind of stiff that is with how creamy and textured and layered and homey the rest of the room is. Consoles I got from my favorite antique store in Fairhope, Alabama called Crown and Colony. They get containers all the time, and most of my home is from them. I follow their feed constantly. They're my favorite. For a while, I was sourcing vintage frames for my paintings, and I don't really do that right now anymore. But for these two paintings, my grandmother gave me these beautiful hand-carved frames that she had in her home. They're spectacular, but they were kind of deteriorating and falling apart, and I can't sell that to anybody. So I just painted some very abstract paintings on them just to get a little color and to go behind my lamps, and I think it adds a nice extra layer to the space. The matching sofas are actually from Crate and Barrel. I'm so proud. They're Jason Arnold for Crate and Barrel, and I loved the pleated detail on them. And they're still very simple and just beautiful lines, and we can throw a bunch of people on them. My kids like to hop from each part. And we did matching bongo stools from Coley Home. Love them. These paintings on this wall are lithographs of Etruscan pottery from the late 1700s, which is pretty cool. Some of these pots have broken and are not here anymore, so I think it's really lovely that they are here. I'm a potter, so of course I fell in love with them. And then the Greek key detailing mimics what is on my consoles, which I thought was really great altogether. And then behind you, over here is a painting that I had commissioned by a dear friend of mine, Sandy Hodgson, out of Fairhope, and that's a spot where my husband and I got engaged, and I gave him that as a wedding gift when we got married a million years ago, and he probably didn't think twice about it when I gave it to him, but now that we have been together so long and he lives with an artist, he really does appreciate art now, and hopefully my girls will want to have that one day. So we decided on a very neutral color palette for this room, but we did a two-tone where the trim and the casings, the chair railing is a little bit darker than the wall color and the ceiling, and I think that that works really well to not make the room feel so precious. Our curtains are French returns, a simple French return with a blue silk and a heavy trim that is really lovely. The sconces are antiques. They are originals from Italy. I got those also at Crown and Colony in Fairhope, and I love the color, that it's ornate but not too gaudy. I think that they are beautiful, and that's our only real source of light in here, so it's still moody. Okay, we are now in my dining room. Welcome. I would not be a proper Southern woman if I did not set the table for you. I personally love to set the table. Growing up in Alabama, we would only see my maternal grandmother on 3 days: Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And she would never really play with us, but she'd always have the most beautiful table set. And I just have warm memories of that being the time that I would get to see my grandmother, was when the table set. So that is a form of love for me. I love a beautiful table set, and doing flowers myself too. Those are all from Trader Joe's. This is my wedding china and our beautiful table. These are antique chairs that I got in the mountains in Cashers, North Carolina. I love them. And my dining room table, my mom and I found in Loxley, Alabama, at the just littlest hole in the wall antique store for, I don't know, maybe a couple $100, and which is wonderful for a dining room table. And it has tons of scratches and watermarks, and we just think of that as a form of love, but I really love it, and I'm so proud of this find. The chandelier was original to the home and is absolutely spectacular. Just really, really love it, and I'm so proud to have it in our house. And when we got the house, this room was like a denim blue, and the ceiling and the chair rail and the trim was a nice yellow, and we had lovely, there's probably a name for it, but my husband and I called it mullet window treatments. We quickly got rid of those, and these are Jean Monroe. This is a Jean Monroe fabric that I absolutely love, in a fun fringe. My husband calls these my grandma curtains, but I like a little grandma. They are formal, and there's lots of antiques, and I think it's really fun that we cut that and tone it down a little bit with a Brenda Bogart painting over here above the buffet. Brenda is one of my all-time favorite artists. You'll probably hear me say that about all of the art in my house. But I love Brenda's artwork, and I love that it tells a story. She does paper cutouts and collages them together. And we are a bulldog family. We're on our second bulldog. And so we found this original in Colorado on a trip with my family. And our first bulldog, Gus, was very sick at the time. And so it was meant to be. I love her work. So now her and I actually share a same gallery. We both show in Charlotte, North Carolina together, and I'm really proud to have this. I love her work. And behind me is just an antique. I think this is it's a Swedish landscape that I've had for many years. And this is my first big girl purchase. This is again from Crown and Colony in Fairhope, and a buffet that is, I think it's French, and it's original, and I love it so very much. These antique director chairs with the original leather I found in Casters, North Carolina at an antique store, and they are heavy and wonderful. I like being able to have a little extra seating for when people are, waiting to all sit together at the table, that there's somewhere else to sit within here. My sense of style is very feminine, I guess, but classic and hopefully homey too. When you walk into our home, I hope that you can smell something cooking in the kitchen and take your shoes off and lay on our couch and pet our dog and run around with my kids. I want you to feel as comfortable as possible. I am a collector of everything. Being an artist, I kind of like for my walls to start with a very clean and calm color, usually whites, creams, because I like to fill my home with artwork and vintage things. My husband and I are always looking at antique stores and cherish for stubs. I love to collect art, especially from contemporaries of mine. I like art that tells a story, and it's really fun when it's from people that I know personally. And so my home is filled with lots of old things. Okay, all right, this is our kitchen. It is a very funny space. It's long and cut off from the rest of the house, but I do love that we can see the street and my kids playing in the front yard while I'm cooking. To be honest, I really thought that this might be the one space that we knocked down some walls and reconfigured everything, but we got in and decided to just live in it for a little bit to really decide what we want to do. And once I got in here, it flows so wonderfully, and they did a remodel in the 90s, and whomever laid it out did such a good job that I kind of fell in love with how easy it is to get to everywhere in my kitchen. And so it used to be just like a big wooden space. There was 100 million upper cabinets, and so there's a Gil Schaefer house that I am in love with. I cannot remember what body of water it's on, but it's a personal home of his, and it's this big white open space and has beams down it. And so that was kind of my starting point, my inspiration for this space. So we painted the beams and took out a ton of the uppers and added in some outdoor lanterns, which I think is fun for the space, and just really opened it up and tried to let in as much as the pretty natural light as we could. Over here we have a big, huge industrial range that I love to cook on. And this brick is the same brick that is on the facade of the house. And it is from an old tobacco factory in Durham, North Carolina, which I think is pretty cool. So if we had reconfigured this space, I would have had to get rid of the brick, and we really love it. And so I'm glad that we didn't have to do that. The countertops were a beautiful deep red when we got here. So we took those out and I added a Taj Mahal. I searched high and low for this one to have more brown in it than gray tones to help tone down our heart of pine floors. And then we added a bunch of plates and antiques, and this is a relic from Italy. And then this antique painting I found at an antique store here in Raleigh with my mom. And I waited a day too late. I saw it, I loved it. I usually like to try and wait a day or two to make sure that I'm really in love with it. So I went back to find it, and somebody had bought it, and I was heartbroken. And then like a month or two later, I went back and it was there. And we were so excited. And so that painting of fruit hangs over our ginormous fruit bowls that I have kids in and out of my house all day long. So it is a special day when they go for the fruit bowl instead of the snack bags in the pantry, but I try. That is a paper mache bowl from a really cool store in Birmingham, Alabama called Shop Mason, and I love that. These set of 4, there's actually 5 of them. They're called Pigeonnier pots. I got them at Crown and Colony in Fairhope. And I was searching for, I really thought I was going to put creamware up there to tone down the color, but I found these pots and they are crusty and could not be uglier, and I just think that they really are fun. And I tried to Google what a pigeon pot is, and I couldn't find it online, so maybe they just bamboozled me. But I love them, and I think that they add just some kind of like gritty character to the space. Being a potter, I make pumpkins and pears during this time of the year, and this is actually the first pear I ever made. It's of course broken. Any pottery, paintings, anything of mine that you see in my house, there is a flaw, and I couldn't sell it. But this is from 2013 and is a first pair of mine, and so I love it very much. And as we get into the kitchen further, this is our breakfast nook. We spend so much time here. This is where we do homework and hear about our days. This piece right here is built into the wall. I really thought that we were going to get rid of this. It had very ornate stained glass in it, but we decided to just paint it white, the same white as the wall, so it would just kind of melt away. And then we added fun chicken wire, and this is where we keep, you know, the cups that we use every day, and then all antique finds of mine. And I love this little French painting of a person out feeding chickens. I just love it, little bit. And then these are antique chairs, I think from France, and I didn't even have them recovered because I know within a couple years with my girls they will need a redo. All right, here is our little bar area. It's a really tight squeeze, but really fun that you can come in and out of the kitchen into our den area. And I really enjoy the kitchen being cut off from the rest of the house, so that, you know how most people get stuck in the kitchen when you go into someone's house, and I love that that stays away. But we love this little baby space. It used to have this really fun door that what you could close and like have this closed off if somebody was bartending. But with my young kids and just the amount of tag that we play in the house, it just was not functional anymore. I was very sad to let that little piece of history go. So we kept the tight space. We changed out the countertops and added a Counting and Tout wallpaper that I love the texture on. There's no real natural light in here, so I picked a wall covering that had a little bit of a shimmer again to it to pick up the light. And I love the contrast between the color of the high gloss, I guess that's kind of a tealy green, with the creams. And this is a painting that I got at the same gallery in New Orleans as my closet in the foyer. My husband loves these boats, and I love that as you're looking in from the den you can see into our kitchen and that antique painting that I love so much. Everything in here again is pretty much an antique that we have sourced all over and taken our time picking and loving. And these are little scarves, little silk scarves that my late grandmother Sue found in Germany. It's I think it might be the only piece of hers that I have in my house. And she lived in a little tiny house in Montgomery, Alabama, and I loved her dearly. So these make me really happy. I would say the heartbeat of our home is probably the den. It feels almost sunken in. The ceilings are higher than the rest of the home with wood beams, and there's a fireplace with a very low profile, and we have a sofa that kind of is an S shape, and so you can fit 1 million people, and usually there are people sitting on the floor, and music playing and candles, and you can flow in and out from the kitchen to the outside space very easily there. So I think that is the heartbeat of our home. Now we are coming into our den. This is our favorite room. We spend all of our time in here, mornings snuggled up on the couch, and usually have this fire going. I do want to tell y'all that when we got the house, that this was a very fancy fish tank, and I swear it looked like they had gotten fish out of the stream across the street. I mean, it was something. And so that was like one of my stipulations, that if we do get the house, like they had to take care of rehoming the fish. But we just took it out, and I love this little nook. It's got a lot of silver that I love to collect, and artwork from a friend, Amanda Norman, in Nashville. As we get into the room, you see that we have the really lovely beams and then a skylight that lets in a lot of natural light. This room, again, was terribly brown when we got our hands on it, so we just kind of lightened and brightened everything. My husband and I really had a hard time deciding on a yes or no, because this is also the brick, the original brick from Durham, but we did whitewash it, and I'm really glad that we did, just to tone a bit of that down, and you can still see the fun texture in it. These swivels are from Circa, and my girls love to spin in them, and my husband and I found this piece at an antique store here in Raleigh. We like to fight over who saw it first. I'm really getting him now to love antiques, as you can tell. This is a pottery piece that I made 1 million years ago. I don't really make pottery anymore, but I love having some of it around the house. And this incredible sofa, we love it so much. There is a mid-century modern store here in Raleigh called Evan Reed, and he's the coolest guy, and he found this sofa in an estate in California, and he had it recovered, and I actually put new springs in it because my kids treat it as a trampoline, but he had it recovered, and I swear I watched this couch for about a year. I didn't know if I was cool enough to have a couch like this, but it's a Klimt, and we love it. It can fit 1 million people on it, and we usually do all curl up and like to watch movies and snuggle up in here in the mornings. Our bookcase is filled with so much love and found pieces. I do have sets of antique books that I like to collect, but also, to my father's dismay, I like to turn books around to where the pages are showing, not the spine. I love the texture and the different variations of color, and that's one of my design tricks, is to go to Goodwill and buy bound books and flip them around, and it helps to fill a bookcase. And so, I mean, this is filled with so many things that I love. Some of my old pottery, a dog that my daughter made in elementary school. This is one of those things, if my house was burning down, I swear I would run in here and grab this little dog. But we love it. And this is a Connor, I think his last name is Lillistrom. I hope I'm saying that right. He is an artist out of Wyoming, and he does a lot of wildlife. But my husband can rock a mean mustache. And so I saw this and fell in love with this oil pastel and gave it to my husband for Valentine's Day a couple years ago. And then this is our last purchase of art. We just went to Paris. It was really lovely with friends and found this at the flea market, and it's Notre Dame and the Seine, and this was painted in 1870, which I think is pretty cool. It's a watercolor. And it just will always remind me of our special trip we took with friends. And my friend Ashley Vermillion, who came with us, she owns a store here in Raleigh, and she let me wear these beautiful gems from her store today. Thank you, Ashley. I love them. Here's a little Greek key again, and some silk drapes that I wanted to take all the way up to the ceiling to try and keep as much light and make this room feel as big as possible. And these are matching antique tables that I love so much with a glass top. The other one's broken because I set my coffee mug on it the other day. Don't put hot mug on glass. But here's one of my old bowls again, and it's filled with shells from our trips. My girls and I love to find sea glass and shells whenever we're on the coast, especially back at home in Alabama. And so it's filled with little treasures that we find. This piece is a Mary Ball piece. She is from my hometown and now lives in New Orleans, and I love her work so much. A lot of people and movement and colors. It's a favorite of mine. This is our little baby powder room. It is a jewel box, and I bought this Gracie wallpaper, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and it was at a time where I didn't know if I would be able to like afford Gracie wallpaper, or my husband would even let me do it. So they used to back in the day. Now they just have them on their websites, but they would do every like year or two, they would do panel sales, like a sale of panels on their website. So I saved my money, I knew it was happening, and I picked an all over pattern that I knew could go anywhere and hopefully in a small space, so that I could change up where the panels laid on the wall. So I purchased like 8 or 9 rolls, as much as I could get my hands on, and kept it until I moved into hopefully my forever house one day. And I used to hide it underneath our guest bedroom bed, and it lived there for years until we bought this house and I got to use it, and I love it very much. So we got our installer, I told him to move the panels, to use different pieces of the panels and get as many butterflies as possible, and I think it turned out lovely. I love it so much. And this is a Hunt Sloan painting, and I love to add, when I add flowers into this space, I get this out in my yard, this foliage, and I love for it to kind of creep up the wall so that the flowers feel like they are actually a part of the wall. This is an antique Venetian mirror and a little bell light we found in an antique store. I cannot even remember where. And then I love these little bud vases. Got this at a new store in Fairhope this past weekend when I was meeting my new nephew. I love these. We picked this fun green, again, high gloss color, because this was, once again, just like a brown, scary space. But the paneling all up top, all of that was original. And so were the fun shutters. And so we just painted it all one color to hide any of the flaws from age, but also to keep that original. It's just really interesting. So the hardware is all original, and same with this, and the towel rack, and so is the countertop. All right, this is my husband calls it the sunroom, I call it the library, but it's just a cozy little spot that we love. I personally love to take a nap on this couch. I have been collecting art books since high school, and so this homes all of my friends, all of my books that inspire me. And sometimes Will come home and I will have opened them and they're all over on the floor. And he's like, what's going on? I just need a little inspiration. We love these antique chairs that we recovered in a fun blue fabric, and we painted the walls green to accentuate how lovely our garden and the greens of North Carolina foliage is. I hope that when you are in this space that you kind of feel like you're outside. There are still books everywhere, magazines, my lovely home magazines that I love so much. And then on my prayer walks and meditations that I take in the morning, I like to find feathers. And so these are all of my special feathers from around here and that I've found on my walks. And then this is a painting of mine. I don't paint in this style anymore, but those are my ceramics. If you followed my work, I'm known for this. And I actually painted this. My best friend from growing up passed away about 6 years ago, and I painted this the week that she passed away. She had breast cancer, so I don't know, it just feels like a little glimpse of heaven to me. And I actually painted 2 of these paintings that week, and I have this one and her parents have the other one that they hang in her home, but this means a lot to me, and so I hung it on our wall. The best compliment somebody could give me of my home I got today. My friend Carrie is here, and she says that my home feels like a warm hug, and I just can't think of anything better. We love everything that is in our home. It's handpicked, usually sourced for years, looking for the right thing, and nothing is too precious. But I want you to feel loved when you walk in my house. Okay, welcome to my foyer. We love this space. I love how big and wide it is, and behind you are 2 double doors with storm doors, so I really enjoy the light coming through. This is our console table when you walk in. Absolutely everything is vintage and antiques, and this is a closet painting. It is my favorite painting in my house. When I was growing up, my parents would take us to New Orleans for the day. It was like a 2-hour drive, and we'd go and eat, and my parents fell in love with these French painters, and Claude was one of them. And this was my first introduction into like real art, and I just absolutely fell in love with him and his big hats that he draws of the French Riviera. And I also paint big hats in my paintings, and it's because of this guy. And I don't know, just when I was little, I would look at these big paintings and these women in a place that I didn't know if I'd ever get to go and be a part of. And so those hats represent just a life that I wanted to live back then. And I love these big sconces. Those were, I used to have a little painting studio in 5 Points here in Raleigh that used to hold some of my pottery, but they live now in my house. I like to collect cut glass, and so I love these little pieces. Sometimes I'll put flowers in them. And then up our stairwell, we kept this banister. All of this was original to the home, which we love. We loved the color and the floors. We loved these heart of pine floors. They have scratches and squeak, and we just loved that about the house, and so we kept them intact. They do tend to pull a little orange. That's why most of our wall colors are so neutral, but we love the floors. And then I've got a Sally King Benedict painting. She is a contemporary of mine that I love so much, and a Jack Penny. He is a really cool painter out of the UK, and this is just a print from one of his recent exhibits, and I am saving my pennies for a Jack Penny original. I really love how cheeky and fun his work is. This waiter is peeing in the pool, so I love it. This is our primary bedroom. This might be one of my favorite spots in the house. It feels like a little tree house, just right here. When they built this home, they planted 2 Japanese maples flanking the house and then 1 in our backyard. And it's huge and lovely. And in about, I don't know, a few weeks, it will turn vibrant red. The leaves do. They just turn just like fire red. And so this room has like a pink glow to it for a couple weeks of the year that I think is pretty magical. I sleep here, and it's the first thing I see when I open my eyes in the morning, and I'm very grateful for this beautiful view. We got this bed, I think it's from Pottery Barn when we first were married. I still love it. It's just neutral and easy. Antique side tables, and of course, again, these were candle abras that were turned into lamps from the Pink Door in Greensboro, North Carolina. These are my favorite lampshades from Newport Lampshade Company. Love them, and I'm very proud of these panels. My window coverings, I actually found them on Cherish. It's very scary to buy window panels from an antique store, especially sight unseen, but it was from a reputable buyer, and I just feel so in love with this embroidered fabric. I don't even know who it's made by, but it was too long for my walls, so I knew that I could chop them off, and so I got them hemmed and cleaned twice, and I pressed them myself, and I'm just really proud of how they turned out, and really glad that they don't smell bad. And then behind you is a painting this is a painting I actually finished this week. I'm taking new work to my gallery in Charlotte next week, but this behind it is the biggest TV you've ever seen, and I'm in a marriage and you have to compromise. So my husband got a humongous TV and overhead fan in the bedroom, and I got what he calls my grandma curtains in the dining room. But this is my La Pointe series, and these were the tiny dots that I was telling you about, and the color fields. And I really like how I will use the dots over this brown are the same color in this blue field, and I love the juxtaposition and the way that the colors change when they are against a contrasting color. And then I use gold leaf for the golden parts of the painting. This whitewashed sideboard was actually in my room growing up in Alabama. It has a sister piece that's in my dining room, and that holds some china, but I love that this made its way up from Alabama all the way up here to North Carolina, and it's beautiful. This is our primary bathroom, and the checkerboard floors, the marble, this was original to the house. This was one of the things that when I walked in, I squealed. As you have seen throughout the day, I love the color green, and so it being green and marble, I was ecstatic. So we kept this, and we kept the very funky countertops. I think that's such a fun, funky color. I wouldn't have necessarily put the two together myself, but I love them together. This is a sewn wallpaper. You've probably seen this a million times, but I love this wallpaper, and I'm so glad it lives in here. I love to take a bathtub, so this is very used, and I'm grateful that our backyard is so private and we didn't have to put any kind of window covering on the window. And then it's just filled with antique art. This is a lithograph of a girl lounging, and I love that because I'm usually lounging in that space. And we're just filled with little bits and bobs of things that we love and pictures of my family. And so I adore being able to get dressed in this space every day, and I love it. I personally love to take a bath, and so this space is very used, and I'm grateful that our backyard is so private that we didn't have to put any window coverings on the wall. So I get to look out at the beautiful, again, Japanese maple right out the window while I'm in the tub. And this is a lithograph from a local antique store of a woman lounging, and I love how simple and the way it was framed and the beautiful ornate frame that it's in. I've always been creative. I didn't know that I would get to have the honor of being a professional artist until probably college. I went to Ole Miss, hotty toddy, and I studied art there. I thought that I would go into painting, but I had an awful professor that was just kind of full of himself, and the pottery professor, the ceramics guy, was fantastic. He had this big handlebar mustache and was just a character, and he really fed into his students, and I switched my major to study underneath him and started my career as a potter. And so from there I've just taken baby steps and got back into painting, and it's been just a slow climb for the past maybe 15 years. I've been a professional artist. Now we are in the screened-in porch that feeds into my studio. This is a very used and loved part of my home. I can come in and out from the pool, and it's usually not raining like it is today, but it has a nice sound. I love to paint out here when the weather is nice, and this is usually where I do my watercolors, and I'll have an easel out here and come in and out to get my paints, but it's just a really great space to be connected to nature. That's such an important part of my work, and you can see it through the color choices that I use. Okay. Welcome to my messy little studio. This is where all the magic happens. I love this space. There's windows on either side, and so I get a lot of natural light. And this is all that I'm working on right now. I've got my kilns in the back and my wheel, and it's just usually a mess filled with lots of creativity happening. This is one of the fun swimmers that I've been working on. This is going to Ann Nielsen next week. And then this is a fun commission that I just got. This is a portrait of three sisters. They're the hats that I spoke about in the foyer that Claude inspires from me. But they are all drinking martinis, and they all have matching bracelets. That was important to the mom who commissioned this, and a P in her necklace for her son's name starts with a P. This girl loves to set a table and flowers, so she has flowers in her hat. And the woman in the middle loves her cat, so they asked me to paint a cat. It's the first one I've ever done, but I love doing those portraits. And here's where I house all of my paints. I like to color code it. It's a mess, but in my head I know where absolutely everything is in here, if you can imagine. Here are some little pieces that I'm working on right now. I've got an upcoming show in LA that I'm really excited about, and I'm working on bringing these little pouts with me to the show. I make these they're little faces, and I make porcelain noses and mouths that I add to the paintings that are really fun. I started painting these when my daughter Levy was about 6-8 months old, and she was this perfect little precious porcelain beautiful baby with the biggest nose and mouth, and just so gorgeous. But she had the worst attitude. She just was always pouting and sassy, and so I just was thinking about her while I was making, and I just created these pouts of these women with, you know, kind of a little bit of an attitude and a sassy look on their face. And so that's where these came from, and I'm excited to share these with people in LA. My favorite thing about my house is the people in it. And my favorite thing is just a house filled with laughter. Home means to me a safe space. I work here, I create here, so home is a place where I feel myself and the most inspired. Homeworthy, I have had so much fun with you this afternoon. Thank you for coming to my home in Raleigh, North Carolina. You are welcome back anytime, and I hope to see you again. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.